Let me tell you guys a scary story about the time I picked up a ghost. No, it's not clickbait. So this actually happened up in Prescott. My parents live in Prescott. So one time I was up there, I was visiting my parents, and I was dropping off my daughter so they could watch her for the weekend so I could go to work. So I drove up there on a Thursday, and then I spent the night, and then I, left her there Friday through Sunday, whatever, picked her up on Sunday. So I spent the night up there. And while I was up there, before I went to sleep, I was on Facebook Marketplace looking for pots, because I was in an era where I was trying to do plants. It didn't work out, but I found this really cute pot on Facebook Marketplace because my location had auto adjusted to Prescott since I was obviously up there, and I was like, you know what, this is literally in Prescott Valley, it's on the way home. I looked up the address, and the pot was really cheap, and it looks like it was in good condition. So I messaged the person, and I was like, hey, can I come pick this up tomorrow? They were like, sure, we'll leave it out front for you, just put the money under the mat. I was like, perfect. I wake up really early on Friday, kiss my daughter goodbye, tell my parents I love them, head back down to the valley because I had to go to work at 11 a.m. And I'd stop by Starbucks or something, had a coffee, was ready for the drive, ready for the day. My ETA looked good. So I was pulling up to, getting through Prescott, I reached Prescott Valley. I'm about to pull up to this house, and immediately I just get bad vibes. I drove past the house. I had to turn around to park, and when I drove past it, in my head I'm like, God, I hope that's not the house. And I checked the numbers, and I can just feel a sense of almost dread and sadness. It was very interesting to try and describe. And I didn't see the pots outside. So I'm like, great. I'm this great morning. This is gonna delay me. But I'm like, you know what? If the pot is not outside, whatever. It is what it is. So I try and call her on Facebook Messenger, because I was like, I'm not going to try and just shoot a message over there because it's going to take too long. I'm on a time crunch. I'm just going to try and call. So I call, and it's ringing, and then it picks up, and I just hear breathing on the other side of the phone. And I'm like, hello? And this woman's voice is very meek, very low. It says, hi. And I was like, hey, it's me from Marketplace. I'm at your house, and I'm parked out front. I don't see the pot out front. Is there any way that you can put it out there? She just goes, oh, okay. Hangs up. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want this thing anymore. But then I literally was going to pull away. I see her open the door, and she's waving at me. It was this, I don't want to use, I don't want to be mean, but it was so creepy. She wasn't creepy, but the way she was waving at the door was creepy, and I just had a bad vibe, and I'm like, fuck. And so I opened the door, my car door, and I was like, hey, how are you? And she's just waving. She's like, hey, it's right here. She opens up her door, and it's in the front. It's right next to the front door, but it's not outside. I was like, oh, just sit outside. I have your cash right here for you. And she was like, I can't lift it. I'm disabled. So I'm like, shit, and I know better than this, not to go in a stranger's home, especially when no one else, there's no neighbors outside, no one even knew I was going there. So I walk over, and I'm like, okay, and I'm kind of assessing, feeling it out, looking at if anyone's in the house, and I don't see anybody. So then I'm like, fuck, Riley, maybe just being paranoid. This poor lady did look disabled. She didn't look like she was able to lift this heavy pot that I want to put my damn plants in. So I'm walking up, and I'm looking in the house as I'm still up front, and I was like, sorry, I'm not trying to be weird, but you can understand how it's a little freaky. And she didn't say anything, she didn't smile or anything. So I walk in the front door, and I go to get this pot, and the second I walk in the door, I am smacked with energy that is vile. I can tell there's something demonic in that house. There's something that's not human, because when you have a sixth sense, you can just tell. And I immediately was like, I'm really sorry. I don't want this anymore. Turned around, and I left, and she was just staring at me from the front door. So anyways, I am a little shaken up. I obviously didn't get the pot. And I called my mom. I FaceTimed, or I regular called her, and then she was like, can you FaceTime really fast? Because I wanted to tell her what happened and how I was a little rattled. So I had drove just down the street. I hadn't I wasn't still in front of her house, and I wasn't on the actual drive yet. So my mom was like, can you FaceTime really quick? Because Gia really wants, my daughter, she's like, Gia really wants to just see you and say good morning. She's really sad, and she misses you. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I can do a quick FaceTime, but then I have to get off the phone because I can't FaceTime and drive, obviously down the mountains too. So I hit the FaceTime button, and I'm talking to her, right? I'm talking to my daughter. And I'm telling my mom at the same time what's happening. And my daughter goes, Mommy, who's... says, who's in the car with you? And my mom was like, what? She's like, who is in the car with you? Like, who could you possibly, what are you doing? Where are you? And I was like, there's just no way. And I couldn't even look behind me in the FaceTime camera. I literally, like, didn't want to look at my phone. I didn't want to look behind me. I felt paralyzed by fear. And all of a sudden, I got this feeling of nausea. And my car just stunk. My car smelled like rotting meat. I instantly know what's happening. And I start having a panic attack. And I could not bring myself to look behind me. And my daughter, Gia, was like, Mommy, that's scary. That's scary, man, in your car. So I literally I open my door and I get out and I'm like, nope. I start screaming in prayers like a mad person. Like, anyone watching was probably like, is this girl okay? No, it was not okay. I started screaming in prayer like, you are not welcome in my, like, you cannot come home with me, you cannot attach to me. I'm going crazy. Then I forget, like, my daughter's still on FaceTime, so I'm like, shit, you know? I was like, baby, like, everything is fine. Like, mommy's playing like a little joke. And my mom is also obviously witnessing this, and she was like, Riley, what the f- is going on? I don't think it ended up coming home with me, but I do think it tried, and that is an experience that just rattled me. Like, I will never forget the feeling of dread. And then when my daughter said, like, Mommy, who is that with you? Like, by the way, obviously, no real person was in my car. No one was in my car. That's all I got for now. Bye, y'all.
Tell me a scary story. I'll go first. A lot to unpack, so I hope you're ready. This story was sent to me by a follower named Kay, who thinks that she's been haunted by one thing or another throughout her entire life. She always had this weird sixth sense where she could, like, feel things around her, but this got even worse when she moved into this old farmhouse right next to a cemetery. She would hear light footsteps coming right up the stairs to her room. In the basement, she always felt like she was being watched, and she couldn't even go into the bathroom alone without somebody standing outside of the door. She was pretty young when she lived there, and she did hear a bunch of noises, but that was about all that happened there. So when she was 11, her and her family moved to another house, not near a cemetery, in like a normal middle-class neighborhood. This is where things started getting worse, but still not the worst thing that she ever experienced. In this house, they had a tenant living in the basement, so she would only go down there with her mom to help with the laundry. She still felt very weird in the basement, like there was something very heavy and negative about the energy down there. But because of her experiences at her old house, she just shrugged it off. Almost as soon as they got settled in, though, more things started to happen. Things would constantly go missing, and she would hear footsteps coming up the stairs. She would always go to get something, and it would just be gone. And then it would show up days later exactly where they had left it, even though they had already checked there like 100 times. Kay was pretty young, so she didn't really stay home alone, but there were several times that she would hear her mom calling her name, and when she'd go to ask her what she wanted, her mom said she was never yelling for her. By the time Kay was about 13, her mom's mobility had gotten worse. She was older than most moms, because she adopted Kay and her brother in her 40s, so by this time she was already in her 50s. She had really bad back and knee problems, and because of these issues, she would never really come up the stairs to check on them. And this is when Kay really started to realize that the footsteps she would hear coming up the stairs at night weren't her mom, and they weren't just her imagination. Every single night she would stay up reading till like 1 a.m. and every night she would hear someone walking up the stairs and start walking down the hallway towards her brother's room. So at this point, their basement tenant had moved out, so her mom turned the finished half of the basement into like a TV room for Kay and her brother. Every time they were down there, they would end up arguing and being negative towards each other, which was not like them at all. They'd start getting angry and upset to the point where they would cry, and they just didn't understand why. She would try to avoid going to the basement for these reasons. When she had to go downstairs to do laundry, she would run as fast as she could from point A to point B. She was old enough now to start staying home alone, and she would hear her mom call her name from the kitchen or the basement, knowing that she wasn't home. Her stuff continued to go missing for days at a time, and she just knew the house was haunted. Footsteps happened every night without fail. Kay was about 15. She had friends over, and they were down in the basement watching TV when one of them looked at her and said, "There's a ghost down here." Kay said, "Yeah, I know. There's one upstairs too. Do you think they're good ghosts?" And her friend just said, "The one down here is not. So do with that what you will." But at 21 years old, Kay moved into her own house. Everything was fine. It didn't seem haunted. Over a year went by without anything happening, other than some things like occasionally going missing, but she's scatterbrained, so she didn't really think anything of it. And then one day she decided to downsize, and an electric kettle that she never used was given to her friend. And that night, shit got weird. Started feeling that heavy, angry, anxious presence that she was really familiar with from the basement. She just tried to ignore it, but over the next few days, her dogs would just randomly start barking at nothing. Things were falling off of the walls and shampoo bottles were randomly being flung out of the tub. Her clothes would start swaying in the closet. After about a week of this going on, she was absolutely terrified at this point, and something tried to shove her down the stairs from behind. She was really freaked out, and so she got in touch with one of her friends who knew quite a bit about paranormal activity. They took all kinds of measures to try to cleanse the space, but nothing worked. They then spoke to another friend who told them it might not be a ghost and it might be fae. Now, Kay didn't believe in anything like this. At this point, she was willing to give anything a shot. He told her to try leaving something out for it, like an offering, oatmeal with milk and honey. He told her to put it up on a shelf or on the back of the counter where her dog wouldn't get it, and to say as she was putting it out that she was so sorry, this is for the fairy folk that was living in her house, that if she got rid of something that they were attached to, this was her offering, and she apologized. So that's what she did. About an hour after she did that, she passed the bookshelf that she had left it on. She could see what looked like finger marks in the oatmeal, and half of it was gone. Nothing negative ever happened after that, but still some more weird things. It's just so crazy to me that that worked. Anybody else ever had any experience with, like, fae? This kind of sparked some, like, memories of mine. But I don't know if it would be fae. So yeah, that might be another story for another time. If any of you have any stories or encounters with the fae, please send them to my email, allyshaysworld@gmail.com. For any type of scary story or paranormal encounter, I'm here for it.
Stories you guys send me about Ocala National Forest and the surrounding area are absolutely terrifying, and I love it. A woman named Rihanna sent me a story about how her husband and her brother were camping at Lake Delancey when they decided to take an ATV ride at night. They rode down the trail across from the campground entrance, and then they decided to stop and walk around for a little bit. They never left the trail. After a while, they stopped and turned around, deciding it was time to go back to camp, and the trail was gone. Not even their footprints were still there in the dirt. It was just completely gone. They wandered around for hours, and Rihanna finally decided to video call her husband because she never received a text that they had made it back to camp. He told his wife that they were lost in the woods, so she pulled up the Find My app to find their locations, and they were somehow 3 miles away from their ATVs. They all insist there is no way they could have done that in the dark. They were finally able to make their way back to their ATVs, but the trail did not reappear until morning. After they finally got back to their camp after hours of wandering, they went to bed and were woken up shortly later by what sounded like a family of bears. It sounds like both men were so exhausted that they didn't want to get up to check out what was going on, so in the morning, they peeked their head out to see what food had been eaten by these supposed bears, and no food had been taken. All the food was left in perfect condition, but everything else was destroyed. I don't have a good explanation for what could have destroyed their camp, but it does sound like they encountered the Ocala shift while they were out on their ATVs. If you haven't seen my video about that, the Ocala shift is when things seem to move and time seems to jump in weird ways while out in Ocala National Forest. It's almost like there's a glitch in the fabric of time itself out there. This next story is from a man named Jimmy. Back in June 1979, he was camping at the Rodman campground before the state took it over. He and his buddies had a large fire going, and they kept hearing weird noises coming from the woods and what sounded like talking, but whoever was talking was staying just out of reach of the firelight. Eventually, the boys decided to douse the fire and go to bed, and figured if people came into camp, they would be able to illuminate them with their spotlights. After about an hour, the boys could still hear these weird noises and the voices outside of their camp. But then just after midnight, they started hearing the noises and the voices in their camp. When the boys turned on their spotlight, it illuminated 3 people standing inside their camp looking disheveled and shabby. When the light hit these people, they didn't run or hide, they just stood staring at the boys, and then they started to talk amongst themselves in gibberish. Or it sounded like gibberish to the boys at least, and Jimmy said it sounded almost baby-like. Jimmy's girlfriend started hollering at them to leave, and they just stood there, and about that time, the group noticed that their light was shining through these people. Jimmy's girlfriend started to freak out and made a dash for the truck, I don't blame her, and Jimmy chased after her. Jimmy started his truck and turned on his headlights so they illuminated these 3 people directly, and he said it was like they were holograms. Light was shining through them again, and it was like they weren't there even though they were. They all decided to leave at that point. Again, I don't blame them, and went back to her house in Orange Park. This sounds very much like stories that I have heard about the Watchers, but I have never heard of the Watchers getting this close to someone before, so I don't know, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this.
The story that I heard in Spanish makes me never want to drive at nighttime again. I do have astigmatism, so I really don't be seeing shit at nighttime anyways, but either way, the story scared me, okay? This guy says that 2 years ago, him, his dad, and his brother were working in Querétaro. He said that the working conditions there in Querétaro were really, really bad, so they all decided to quit, and that same day, they were going to drive back home to El Estado de Mexico. They did work that entire day and decided to still make that drive after work, so they were really tired, but they were hopeful to get home really, really quick. When they did leave work, the dad was the one who was driving, and he had driven long enough to where they got to the municipio del Estado de Mexico. By that point though, he was really sleepy, so he stopped so that one of his sons would take over and he can go to sleep in the back seat. So the guy telling us the story of what happened to him is the one who decided to drive, and his other brother became his co-pilot. He explains that the car that they were driving did not have like any modern radio system or anything like that. It just picked up any, is it FM and AM stations that were on? Is it AM? I don't know, it's AM, but I know FM for sure. Anyway, his brother started looking for radio stations so that they can distract themselves. They didn't want to make that drive in silent, just listening to their dad asleep in the back seat. They were only able to find one radio station, and it just so happened to be a station that was talking about paranormal stories. In the beginning, him and his brother were making fun of the person who was saying these scary stories because up until that point, they were both skeptics. He explains that after a while of listening to this guy telling these stories on the radio station, they both started to, instead of make fun, pay attention more to the stories, and they didn't want to admit it, but he thinks that these were really affecting them, like they were taking the stories in and they were getting a little more serious than they thought they would be. That's also when the host of this radio station started talking about the legend of the naked man. So the legend goes that of course there's a naked man who would appear on the side of the road of people who were traveling. The legend goes that this naked guy would chase after people's cars, and it didn't matter how fast they were going, this guy was keeping up. Apparently, he reaches these people in the cars and gets inside the car with them. This naked guy has caused a lot of accidents, and some of them even fatal. So he says that after listening to this like legend of the naked man, he turns to his brother and he's like, this is so fucking ridiculous. He tells his brother how stupid the story was, and obviously it was all fake, and admits that maybe he shouldn't have done that. By this point, it was around 1:30 in the morning, and he says that the street just got deserted. He did not see any other cars coming and going. It was like they were on the road by themselves. It was in that moment where the radio station just started failing. All you would hear was static. After that, it was a voice that was very distorted and they couldn't make sense of what they were saying. His brother did try to change the radio station to see if there was anything else, but there was nothing else playing, or at least that their antenna would pick up. That's when he started to notice that as he's looking forward on the side of the road, he's starting to see a figure. It looks like a man, a naked man. He says that this naked man's skin was really pale, almost gray. He could also make out that this naked man had something in his hands. It was something small. It almost looked like a baby. Within seconds, they were passing by this naked man. Within those seconds that they passed by him, he could tell that this guy was not human. His eyes were very sunken, very like dead, but he had this evil smile on his face. The worst thing that they saw was what was in his hands, which you could say was a baby, but definitely was not human. He describes this baby as being very deformed. After passing that and being like, what the fuck, he says that he looks at his rearview mirror because he wanted to confirm what he had just seen. And when he did that, he sees nothing behind them. He immediately hits the gas and says that he even started sweating out of the fear that he felt in that moment. He tried to tell himself that it was a hallucination and he was really tired. He had just worked and now he was driving on the road, and that this was not real. However, when he finally turned to the side to look at his brother, the look of his brother's face is what confirmed to him that what they saw was very much real. His brother looked very pale with his eyes wide open, and he was breathing too fast, almost like if he was having an anxiety attack. The only thing that his brother was able to make out was, did you see that horrible thing? He didn't even respond to his brother. He didn't need to. They had both seen the same figure on the side of the road. It was also in that moment where he felt this like impulse, this like weird vibe that wanted him to look at the rearview mirror again. It was like something was telling him to look back. When he does, he swears that for the little seconds that he looked through that rearview mirror, he could see this naked man running behind their car, still carrying this deformed baby, running behind him at an incredible speed because at this point he was hauling ass. He hit the gas again and they were going even faster, and he says that when he hit the gas, it's almost like his brother knew there was something behind us because he immediately closes his eyes and just starts praying out loud. By the way, the dad that was in the back seat, he remained asleep this entire time without even realizing that anything was happening. He even mentions how like this entire encounter happened within 5 minutes, but for him, it felt like an eternity. Finally, after that, the road finally started to have other cars in it and there was life again. Like they were not alone on the road anymore. A few cars started passing them, you know, going in the direction of the naked guy, and he said that the radio station actually started working again. Almost like if nothing had just happened. He said that they did end up making it home and that they did not talk about this topic until the following day. And of course, nobody in their family believed them. Their dad even got mad at them, telling them that if something had happened, he would have known. Like, how the fuck y'all getting mad at them when they're the ones who went through the most horrible 5 minutes of their life? He explains how, although some people may think of this as an urban legend, it was very much real for him and his brother, and he has never gone back to that street and will never go back to that street again. He explains how it doesn't matter how many people deny this legend, that naked man is definitely on that road in Mexico. And if you just so happen to see him and live to tell the story, you will never forget him.
The bruises appeared on Pigeon's mom days later. They had no idea where they came from until they remembered their night in the cemetery. Today's story comes from a listener named Pigeon. On their 18th birthday, Pigeon and their mom was visiting St. Augustine, Florida. Their hotel had a pamphlet for a ghost tour, so they decided they wanted to try it. This was a late night ghost tour that started at 11 p.m. and ended at 1 a.m. They met their guide at an old house along with another couple that would be joining them. So the first two locations on this tour were pretty tame and uneventful, but they were fun. The third location is where everything gets really creepy. When they pulled up to the cemetery, the other people in the group immediately decided that they didn't even want to go to this location. They wanted to stay in the van, so it was just Pigeon, their mom, and the tour guide. Immediately upon stepping into that cemetery, Pigeon felt something was really bad wrong. They told their mom that they wanted to stay right next to her. The further they got into the cemetery, Pigeon started seeing things in the trees. It was silhouettes of heads and faces peering around the trunks of the trees, and as soon as you tried to look at them, they would dart back behind. They said there was even a ghost cat that followed them around the cemetery. But the most unsettling thing was something that their guide called a crawler. It stalked along the far left fence of the cemetery, one that divided the cemetery in half. Pigeon says they could sense it before they actually saw it. In their mind's eye, they saw a gangly white figure following them from behind the fence on all fours. The guide told them that it might not even show itself. One time it did charge at her, but she just ignored it and it backed off. They tried to continue the tour normally, but this thing wanted them to know it was there. They could hear it making noises along the fence, following them as they walked. Between the wooden fence and the distance, they really couldn't see it clearly, but it was definitely there. Near the end of the tour is when everything escalated. The crawler then came over the fence. Though the thing wasn't white like Pigeon had seen in their mind's eye, the thing was more dark, like a black color, and when it was on all fours, it was at least 4 or 5 feet tall, on all fours. Pigeon does their best to ignore it. They always carry protection on their person. They're from the Appalachians of South Carolina, so they kind of knew of these things and knew how to protect themselves. But Pigeon's mother, who has not really ever believed in the supernatural, didn't have any of these protections, and it seems like it knew that. It targeted her. Pigeon's mom just could not look away from this thing. She said that she was completely transfixed, like her gaze was locked on to that creature and she could not break free. That's when they knew they really needed to just leave. The guide called on a spirit friend to help guide them out, and they told them to keep their backs to it and to just not pay it any attention and just get out of there. But Pigeon's mother couldn't help herself. She kept stopping and looking back at it every few paces. So Pigeon grabbed her arm and basically pulled her out of the cemetery. As they were actually exiting the cemetery through the entrance, they walked backwards, partly out of respect for the dead, but also as they were leaving, they wanted to make sure that they didn't have their backs turned from this thing. Pigeon's mother later informed her that during their retreat, the crawler climbed up into a tree, like as if to get a higher vantage point to watch them as they left. According to her, it didn't climb like a man, it was more like a cat, almost like it was defying gravity, as it used 2 long fingers to climb the trunk vertically up instead of using multiple branches to get to the branch it wanted to sit on. The trees are covered in hanging moss, so Pigeon believes that it was trying to climb up there to conceal itself to try and get them to turn their backs on it as they exited the cemetery. I got back to their hotel room. They were so exhausted they were trembling, so they hit their pillows and immediately fell asleep. But their encounter wasn't over yet. In the following days, Pigeon's mother woke up with multiple bruises up and down her legs. They were so severe she felt like she couldn't even wear shorts. Their mom had no explanation for these bruises. There was no logical reason she would have so many severe ones, so all they could think of was how that thing fixated on her at the cemetery. As soon as they got home, they immediately cleansed their home. They just were not taking any chances that negative energy followed them. Before this, Pigeon's mom had never quite believed in the paranormal or the supernatural, but this experience definitely changed her mind. Pigeon said that they had never heard their mom so frightened and so rattled before in their entire life, that this definitely shook her. Thank you, Pigeon, for sending in your story and thoroughly creeping me out for the night. Crawlers specifically give me the creeps so bad. Like, ghosts, I'm like, sure, whatever, but hell no. If you or someone you know has experienced anything like this, feel free to send me a DM. I'd love to make a video about it. Let me know what you guys think about this encounter in the comments. It thoroughly freaked me out. So be sure to interact. It really helps me. Thank you all for watching so much, and I will see you next time.
Snacks in hand, the vibe is set, and once I start, you won't forget. Don't eat too much, cause you gotta stay fine. But come on, bestie, it's... yeah! Hey, bestie, I missed you. You wanna go get your snack? And your drink? And your rolling equipment? Okay. So for the sake of this story, let's call this guy James. James is one of those quiet male followers. Shout out to y'all. You know the guys love a good story time too. Y'all not slick. Anyway, James is Jamaican, so this happened back home in Jamaica. And this is a story that scarred him for the rest of his life. So back in Jamaica, it's basically like the same rules as other Caribbeans. Don't be outside at a certain time. Don't whistle. Y'all get it. So one afternoon, actually, he was playing with his friends. They were playing soccer. This was almost like a daily thing. After school, everybody does their homework. They do what they got to do. And then everybody meet outside and they play soccer till sundown. And it's time to go to bed. So that's what's happening. They're playing soccer. They're having fun. The sun is starting to go down. Some of the kids go inside for dinner. Some of the kids stay outside. James was one of those kids that like to stay outside. Listen, he loved playing soccer so much that he don't care if it's midnight outside. He'll be outside playing soccer. In his neighborhood, they had this one neighbor, and you only saw her during the day. As a child growing up in the village, you were warned by the adults about this lady. But lots of people believed that she was heavy on black magic. Never actually had physical proof, but it was just rumors going around. But it was true though. You only saw her during the day. Sometimes you see her sweeping the yard. Sometimes you see her feeding her animals. But you will never catch her outside when it's even slightly dark. The moment it starts getting dark, she goes inside and she does not come out all night. Anyway, James's yard was next to that neighbor's yard. And he's outside with his friends. And they're playing soccer. And one of the friends kicks the ball accidentally into her yard. Now, the moment the friend did that, everybody automatically is like, well, time to go inside. Everybody know not to go in that lady's yard to get that ball. But the guy who kicked it, let's call him Jason. Jason is like, oh, I feel so bad because I kicked it. Let me go get it. Everybody's like, no, you know better. We all know better. So Jason is like, bro, she's not even going to come out anyway. We also know that she never comes out at night. What are the chances of her coming out and doing something to us? The ball is literally right there. We're going to go. We're going to grab the ball and we're going to leave out. We'll be fine. And then he says, James, you come with me. James is like, ooh. Before James even had a chance to say yes or no, Jason grabbed his hand and said, come on, the ball is right there. And so they start walking towards the yard. And James is a little scared. But Justin had a good point. She doesn't come out at night. What's really going to happen? And so James is like, bro, let's hurry up. At this point, my jaw is dark. It's pitch black dark. This is in Jamaica. There's no pole lights. It's dark. So they're looking at the ball and they run towards the ball. But in order for them to get to the ball, they have to pass the house and pass a window. So they're trying to sneak under the window. If the lady's looking outside, the lady's not going to see them. So as James is like crouching under the window and he's like, come on, Justin, hurry up. The ball is right there. He turned. Justin's gone. His heart dropped in his ass. So he turns around. He sees Justin. It's not like he just disappeared. He's gone. But he's only gone from next to him. When he looked back, he looked at Justin. Justin is standing in front of that lady's window, literally staring in major shock. He's seeing something he's never seen before. Remember they were trying to hide from the window? Jason is literally standing like that in front of the window. So James is like, yo, what are you doing? You okay? Jason started freaking out. I mean, not Jason, Justin. Justin started freaking out. He's like, Jason, Justin, James, I can't keep up. James and Jason. Okay. Justin tells Jason, yo, what are you doing? Jason, looking terrified, says, come look at this. In Justin's head, why do I keep saying Justin? And James's head, like, okay, he's talking to me, so he's okay. Let me see what he's talking about. So he goes over there, and he looks at the window, and he sees this lady, butt-ass naked, dancing around like she lost her damn mind. She's dancing like she does not have a piece of bone in her body. She's bending in ways that humans should not be bending, and especially not a lady her age. Not only that, she's doing the dancing and but she's also holding a bottle of hot sauce. Now, we've had stories about those kind of hot sauces before and where people be putting them. Now, in her case, she was spreading that thing all over her, in her eye, like just, ooh, that looked freaky. Y'all get it. She's like everywhere, and this lady is butt naked. He's only got a chance to look for like maybe 10 seconds before the dancing kind of like just suddenly stopped. She started to turn her body towards the window, and they both took it. They was out of there. Fuck the ball. As soon as they got far away enough, both of them just started crying because they're really young at the time. So could you imagine seeing something like that? That night, of course, neither one of them could go to sleep. But guess what? The next day, James wakes up to his mom coming up to him, telling him that his ball was just sitting in front of their door. So mom came to give it back to him, thinking that she left it outside. I mean, he left it outside or something. James instantly got scared, told his mom what happened, and his mom didn't even give him the ball anymore. His mom just took the ball and did whatever it is that she did with it. Yeah, that was just like the most traumatizing story that he ever experienced. And he wanted me to share it to y'all. Don't forget to let me know what you're eating in the comments, and don't forget to go and grab your ebook to protect yourself from things like this. Okay, I love you, bestie. Bye.
I need to tell you guys this ghost story. I had a supernatural experience last night. I think it's important to note that this also was posted 8 months ago. So I really hope that there's some sort of update or something else has happened. I'm gonna have to go check. I've been a caretaker in Scotland of a ridiculously large church. Oh, I already know this is gonna be good. I know this is gonna be so good. Just the folklore that comes out of Scotland is, it's so good. It's like the top tier of folklore. Anything spooky that's happening in Scotland, I already know it's gonna be good. I've been a caretaker in Scotland for a ridiculously large church, sanctuary, and 3 townhouses for the past 4 years. My job is to look after the various offices and function rooms of the 3 townhouses, manse, and church. What's a manse? M-A-N-S-E. Am I saying that correctly? These buildings are 4 stories high and built in 1710. I also look after the church and sanctuary that are attached to the townhouses. It's a very large building attached to other large buildings. I just know you're there by yourself a majority of the time. I start my evenings in there around 6:30. I often don't switch on all the lights and have never felt threatened or creeped out carrying out my duties. Until one day, last night, however, I'm just bracing myself. Last night, however, I felt like an intense feeling of impending doom. I don't know how to describe it better than that. I told myself I was being ridiculous and tried to push the feeling in the back of my mind. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. It's always your body and your senses that notice that something is there before you do. So just feeling like something is wrong, feeling like something is amiss, and just not knowing why, but your body knows, like your senses are on overdrive. Your senses are like, oh, something's up. Something is up. You don't know what it is yet, but I feel it. That is so scary. At about 8 o'clock, I was in one of the areas that's actually a really nice part of the building. Not spooky at all. And I heard a man say my name. Okay. Not only is something there, it's now calling out to you by name. It knows you. I looked around, but I was the only one there, so I dismissed it. Nope, yeah, of course. No, that's perfect response. Let's just pretend that did not happen. Let's go about our day. Later, I was walking through the bridge between the townhouses and church and heard footsteps behind me. I looked and saw no one, but the hairs stuck up on my neck. And again, I tried to dismiss it. Why are we trying to dismiss it? You need to run. You need to get out of there. You need to just leave the work, come back early tomorrow. Come back once the sun's up, and then walking out of the bridge and into the outer sanctuary, I looked into the glass partition to the inner sanctuary and swear I saw someone. Oh my God. I got a fright and went in to see who it was. Again, no one. Oh. I then heard a door slam in the upper gallery. No, because at this point, it wants you to be scared. There's a difference between experiencing a ghost, right? And something, number one, wanting you to know it's there. Number two, doing things to scare you because it knows you're there and it wants you to know that it's there. The name calling, the following you, the footsteps, showing up behind the glass, the door slamming, that is completely different from just seeing a ghost or just like experiencing something paranormal. This is trying to get your attention. And that freaks me out. We have a choir room off the upper gallery, so I headed up. I saw no one and tried to open the choir room and found it to be locked. I've never known it to be locked. This man has been caretaker for this property for years. A door that has never previously been locked before, all of a sudden is locked. All of a sudden is locked from the man who holds the keys. I opened it with the master key and saw nothing except a few chairs and books, but smelled a bad smell. Oh, run. Run and run now, and go as far away as you can. I quickly closed it up and locked it again. At this point, I was more than uneasy. My last port of call at 10:30 was the crypt. The crypt! I headed down the spiral stair. Okay. As if this could not have been any more of a generic, scary story. The stairs have to be spiraled. I headed down the spiral staircase into the crypt, which runs under the entire build of the property. I cleaned up as I was moving down the corridor. I heard footsteps again. It's following you into the crypt. Oh my God. I looked around, no one. There was only one entrance and exit in the crypt, so I was certain I was alone, except that you weren't.
And Troy messages and he says, I have a really weird story about this woman that I dated, and anytime I try to tell this story, nobody believes me. So what better place to tell it? So this story takes place over the course of the year, and Troy says that he works in like a corporate setting, and he had just started this new job in a building that overlooked Lake Michigan. He said the company hired a bunch of people for a similar role, and on the first day they're all supposed to be in the office, they gather all the new hires in a conference room for orientation. He walks in, he looks around, he's kind of clocking everybody that he's going to be working with, and he locks eyes with this woman who's sitting by the window, and he said like Lake Michigan was behind her. It was a clear blue day, and she had these stunning blue eyes that were like amplified by all the light and the water coming in from behind her. He had a hard time taking his eyes off of her, and he looks around to see if anyone else noticed her because she was so beautiful, but nobody else seemed to be paying her too much attention. He just kind of clocks it like, okay, I'm really attracted to her, and then, pays attention to orientation. Afterward, they get assigned lockers. I don't work in a corporate setting. I don't know how common this is, but essentially he said they were for like safekeeping and for like winter wear. He gets assigned the locker next to his. He gets chatting, he learns her name is Heidi, and then not long after orientation, there's like a team project, and she walks up to him, she's like, oh, do you want to be part of my team? And he's like, cool. Long story short, they end up exchanging numbers and they start dating. The course of the year that they dated, they always were at his house. Like, he was never allowed to go to her house. He always just had excuses like, oh, it's messy. Oh, I have roommates. Oh, this and that. And he was fine with that. Like, he liked his house. He was comfortable where he was at, and he was more than happy to have her there. But obviously, I loved her personality. But one thing that stood out to me about her beauty, besides her eyes, was that she had porcelain-like skin, not a blemish anywhere. That it was akin to a porcelain doll. And he also pointed out at this point that for a year, he touched her, felt her, smelled her, was intimate with her. We're doing all of the relationship things, and as their year anniversary approaches, it's also coming up to New Year's Eve, and she tells him out of the blue one day, hey, my friends and I are going to host a New Year's Eve party. And Troy's like, cool, where's it going to be at? He's thinking a bar, a club, a restaurant. He's not thinking it's going to be at her place because he had never been there. He just didn't expect her to have anybody there because she always had excuses for why he couldn't come over. He goes, oh, it's actually going to be at the condo building where I live. Actually, some of my friends have other condos in the building, and it's just going to be kind of like a whole building thing. Like, oh, okay, cool, great, excited to see her place. The night of the New Year's Eve party, he arrives, and he's surprised because it's actually a really nice condo building. Walked up to the building, the front door is open, and as he's walking up, Heidi peeks her head over one of the balconies, and she's like, come on up. He goes up, he notices on her floor, other people have their doors open, there's people coming and going from all of the different condos. The place is just filled wall to wall with people, and Heidi's introducing him to like all of the people that live there and all the people that have been invited. Heidi's condo itself is also filled with people, and it's really clean and really nice, and he's like, I can't believe she never had me over here before. She's like, do you want something to drink? He's like, sure. He doesn't ask for anything specific. She comes back, she gives him a drink, and pretty much immediately after he started drinking it, he said he felt weird. That he didn't feel drunk, he felt like fuzzy and like colors were more vivid. Still felt like himself, and he asked her like, what did you give me? And she's like, it's good, right? And then she pulls him into her bedroom where they close the door and are intimate again. Afterwards, they go back out, rejoin the party. Everybody is having a great time. Our friends are super friendly. Everybody's laughing, having a great time. All in all, 10 out of 10, great night. Next morning, he wakes up in Heidi's room. He said he wasn't hungover. They had breakfast. They were smiling. They were laughing. They hung out until about noon, and then he says, okay, I'm going to head home. She goes, cool, I'll see you at work in a couple days. After he goes home, he texts her. He's like, I had a really great time. She doesn't respond. He doesn't really think anything of it. He's like, maybe she's hungover. He still doesn't hear from her, but he's like, okay, well, I'm going to see her at work, so maybe she's just cleaning up after the party. The first day back at work after New Year's, he gets to his locker, and he sees that her locker door is open, and there's just a single glove inside. It was the glove that she always wore that matched her coat. He didn't think anything of it, but she doesn't show up to work that day, so he calls her. No answer. He asks a couple people at work. He's like, hey, has anyone heard from Heidi? Everyone's like, no. Gives him a weird look. So after work, he gets like weirded out, and he's like, I'm just going to go over to her place because now he's worried. He gets to the building. He gets to the front door. He sees the little buzzer on the side, but there's no names on any of the buzzers, so he doesn't know actually which one's her unit. Nobody seems to be coming or going. He can't get in. He calls her again. No answer. He's freaking out, but he also doesn't have any of her friends' numbers. He has no way of getting in contact with her other than her work and her number. Next day, she's not at work again. He goes back to her apartment after work, and he's like freaking out, and he's waiting at the door for someone to come out, and he sees this couple coming out. They look middle-aged. He didn't recognize them. He didn't meet them at the party, and they come out, and he goes, hey, have you guys seen Heidi? Do you know who Heidi is? She lives here. She lives on, this floor. The couple just gives him a really weird look, and they're like, who are you looking for? And he tells them, and they're like, nobody lives on that floor. Like, we own the building. This building is vacant. He's like, what? And he's like, well, what about Mike and Jessica? And he starts rattling off this list of names of other people he had met who said they lived in the building the night of the party. The couple's just looking at him strangely, and they're like elegantly dressed, like they're well put together. They seem like they have it together. They're like, we're selling this building, we're getting it ready. And they start questioning him. They're like, who had a party here? He's like, oh, maybe Heidi didn't actually live here. Like maybe they broke in and threw the party. So he doesn't want to implicate it. He's like, I must have the wrong building. Even though he knew it was the right building. So the next day he goes back to work, and he's like, I'm going to talk to the door guy because he knows everybody. He knows everybody's business. And he and Heidi had like kind of a close friendship. Like they were always gossiping and talking. He goes up to the door guy. He's like, hey, did Heidi say anything weird to you about why she wasn't going to be in work this week or why she's not talking to me? And the door guy's just looking at him strangely. He's like, who is Heidi? I said at that point, he like almost lost his mind, and he thought he was like going absolutely nuts. So he goes up to work. He's like asking all his coworkers, like, where's Heidi? Everyone has no idea who he's talking about. I guess everyone had just assumed previously that Heidi was somebody from a different apartment. Said he wasn't really close with anyone at work, so like they didn't really know the ins and outs of their relationship, but like nobody knew of a Heidi that he had been dating who worked in their office. He said at that point he genuinely thought that he had hallucinated the whole thing. He thought he was losing his mind. He didn't know what to make of it, and it really was messing with him for a while. He keeps trying to call her, but eventually her number stops ringing, and it starts saying like this number is no longer in service. He goes and he gets checked out mentally, physically, everything comes back normal. He's still trying to wrap his brain around how he could have made this whole scenario up. He's wrestling with this for like 6 months, and summertime comes around, and he's taken to going on runs by the lake every single morning. He said he had never been a runner, never been an athlete, but something about the lake that summer just drew him to it, and he just felt like it helped him clear his head. It just made him feel better about the whole situation. This one morning, it's early, he's down by the lake, he's on his run, and he said that that day was particularly beautiful. Like the sky was bluer than normal, the water was very blue, very still. He reached this bend on the trail that curved around the lake, and he said he had the sensation that the world around him was just slowing down, like everything was going still. That's when he hears Heidi's voice behind him say, "Hey, Troy." He whips around so fast and he sees Heidi coming toward him riding on a bike, beautiful as ever. She rides past him and she smiles at him as she does, and he said her skin was glistening almost as if it was like lit up by diamonds. She doesn't say anything else. She just rides off in the distance and he can't move. He's just stunned. And this man that's walking near him looks at him and says, "Wow, that woman was beautiful." So he goes, "I know I didn't make the whole thing up because somebody else saw her." He said that was 11 years ago and I've never heard from her or seen her since. As he doesn't expect to be believed necessarily, he's not used to it when he tells his story, but he was sharing this with the hopes that maybe somebody out there has had a similar experience and maybe he won't feel so alone. If you're new here, this is Spooky Scary Storytime, the series where I share listeners' allegedly true stories about the strangest or creepiest things they've ever experienced. If you have a story you think nobody else would believe, we would love to hear it.
Let's read another true and scary story. Real experiences I've had while working as a nurse. In my mid-20s, I worked at a subacute rehab facility. Generally, these places exist to help those who are struggling after an accident, surgery, etc., regain their mobility and quality of life with the help of physical therapy and around-the-clock nursing care. I worked in the dementia unit. These patients were long-term and most ended up living out the rest of their days there. Although it was called the dementia unit, our patients were comprised of those suffering from permanent or long-term brain-related conditions. These included dementia, Alzheimer's, comas, strokes, traumatic brain injuries, and brain tumors. These are the experiences I had while working there. Number 1, disembodied hand. I had just clocked in for the evening and received report from the day shift nurse. I was standing at the end of the hallway with my back against the wall, reviewing the notes I had taken from the previous nurse. While reading over my slip of paper, I felt what could only be described as a hand dragging its fingers horizontally across my abdomen. I jerked back and looked around, but I was completely alone. 2, the call light symphony. Although I do not have a particular story about call lights, it was a normal occurrence to have call lights in empty rooms triggered, even in rooms where the wires that were attached to call buttons were unplugged from the wall. Some nights, the nurses would be forced to respond to several phantom calls from empty rooms. Number 3, the empty room ghost. At the very end of one of our halls contained a habitually empty room. The heat air conditioning unit was broken, so patients were never placed there. The nurses and aides would use that room for privacy during personal phone calls, to poop in peace, or do whatever else required some seclusion. One evening, I headed into that room's bathroom to touch up my makeup and fix my hair. I left the bathroom door slightly ajar while going about my business. I was putting my hair up in a bun when the bathroom door slammed shut behind me. Mid-heart attack, I spun around and jerked the door back open. The room was empty. The time it would have taken a human to exit the room would have been longer than what it took me to open the bathroom door. I'd also like to note that there was no furniture in the room, nothing a human could have hid behind. I'm convinced it wasn't a living person who slammed that door. Number 4, the last farewell. One patient we had residing in the long-term unit was a middle-aged woman with severe Down syndrome. She was mostly nonverbal, save for a few words she would utter randomly. She was very sweet and always had a smile on her face. It was my turn to help her eat dinner the night this story takes place. She didn't have the motor skills to eat properly, so I spoon-fed her while we caught up on cartoons on her TV set. But this particular night, she acted completely out of character. I didn't notice at first because I was engrossed in the show we were watching. I failed to notice her attempts to get my attention. She finally resorted to using grunts to call me away from the TV screen. When I finally noticed, she seemed overjoyed with something. Her mouth was stretched into a wide grin and she was pointing at an empty corner in the back of her room. I could clearly see the corner, but nothing else. I looked back and forth between her and the corner, but I couldn't understand what she was trying to communicate. She was pointing, giggling, and waving at apparently nothing in the corner. I tried asking her what she was trying to show me, simple yes and no questions she could nod or shake her head to. I became uneasy with her actions because I knew she was seeing something that I could not. After I finished up feeding her, I walked back out to the hallway and was immediately approached by a fellow nurse. My stomach sank and I felt queasy when she told me the next-door neighbor of the woman I was just feeding had passed away during dinner time. Number 5, the window watcher. Not my story, but was told to me by a fellow nurse. My friend, let's call her Mary, worked the night shift at the same rehab as I, but this story takes place years before I was hired there. Mary was close to one of her patients and she went out of her way to make her feel special. The patient was an elderly woman with no living family and was chronically lonely. Let's call the patient Emily. When Mary bonded with Emily, it became a habit of Emily's to wait by her room's window, which faced the employee parking lot, so when she saw Mary walking up to the building, she could wave. This became a special occasion for Emily, and the two would wave to one another before and after Mary's shift while she traveled to and from the employee parking lot. And then Emily fell ill and was unable to get out of bed for a while. Every time Mary pulled up for work, she would check to see if Emily was waiting by the window. When she didn't see her, she would know walking in that Emily was still sick. This went on for a few weeks. Mary would pull into the parking lot, hoping to see her sweet patient up and out of bed and waiting patiently to wave to her. But then one day, Mary showed up at work and saw Emily standing at her window, peering out over the employee parking lot. Mary was thrilled and hopped out of her car and gave Emily a gleeful wave. But Emily stood motionless and did not react to Mary's exuberant greeting. Puzzled, Mary headed into the building only to quickly find out that Emily passed away earlier that day. Oh my gosh. Nurse stories are always super interesting to me because I feel like they are so surrounded by death all the time that since they come in contact with it so much, they experience more. And I'm glad to see that people on Reddit are posting their own stories about experiencing some paranormal activity. As always, if you guys have stories you'd like to send my way, please email them to me and I will get to them if I can. And I will see you in the next one.
This story has to do with the D word, so I highly suggest you put on your AirPods or your headphones. Do not have this playing out in the open because I promise you, you will call upon something that you're not going to want in your space. Hence why I'm in my car. The person who submitted the story wants to be anonymous, so let's call her Teresa. In the year 2020, Teresa was extremely depressed, so she decided to seek out the help of a therapist. This really helped her and it started to make her feel so much better as time went on. One day, she came home after her normal routine of going to work. She came home, took a shower, did her skincare routine, and lay down in bed. Just as she was getting ready to drift off to sleep, she notices this yellow light that starts to like slowly fill her room. She's trying to figure out where this yellow light is coming from. So she's laying there trying to figure out where this yellow light is coming from. She notices that it starts to glow, and as it glows, it starts to like show something. She sees piles of gold and expensive jewelry all around her. Just as her eyes started to adjust from it just being so bright in there, she noticed that she wasn't alone in her room. There was like a humanoid figure like across from her. This humanoid figure was about 7 feet tall, and she noticed that it had these large horns and these deep black eyes just staring at her. Every single scary movie that she had ever heard of popped into her head, and she remembered that if you know the D word's name, that it gives you power over it. So without even realizing it, she feels like it was like telepathically, she asked the D word what its name was. The D word answered its name immediately. Not loud, but almost like he like put it inside her head. He then said, all of this could be yours. Gold, power, everything. All you have to do is ask. Even though Teresa was terrified, like a deep voice within her was telling her to go to sleep. Ignore this encounter and go to sleep. Do not respond. Do not engage. Go to bed. Teresa did just that. She shut her eyes and she fell asleep. Now, the next morning after Teresa woke up, she completely forgot about that encounter. She got up and got ready for work and did her normal routine like usual. While she was on her lunch break, she was just kind of doom scrolling on her phone when she comes across this meme. The meme had the same exact face that she had seen the night before, and in the wording of the meme it said, just like God loves you, remember that I love you too. The whole events of what happened the night before came flooding into her head, and she remembered everything. She decided to search up the name because she remembered what the D word's name was, and what she found completely made her stomach drop. Now this story is getting a little bit long, so I'm gonna have to do a part 2 that will be up right after this one, I promise. This is part 2 of the D word story time. So as Teresa was sitting there doom scrolling at work, she comes across a meme that shows the face of the D word that she had encountered the night before. And in the meme, the words were written out saying, just like God loves you, remember that I love you too. This completely reminded her of everything that had happened the night before, and she was terrified. She remembered the D word's name, so she decided to look him up. And what she found completely made her stomach drop. According to multiple sources, the entity is ancient. He's a D word known for recruiting humans by offering wealth and power in exchange for devastating prices. It is described as a guardian of, and October is the month where he is the strongest. This happened to Teresa on October 1st. So the first day he was out, he came looking for her. Teresa kept digging through YouTube videos and reading comment sections filled with people saying the same thing, that this entity had appeared to them between sleep and waking up, exactly like it had done to Teresa. Terrified, Teresa decided to reach out to the person that she trusted the most, which happened to be her therapist. Her therapist decided to go ahead and schedule an emergency visit that same day. After Teresa got there, she told her therapist everything that happened. She really thought her therapist would think that she was crazy, but her therapist believed her. She then explained that when a person is deeply depressed, they vibrate in very low frequencies. and that some beings feed off of that energy. For months, Teresa had been really struggling, and she had been the main source of feeding for this thing. When Teresa started to heal and come out of her depression, she feels that this thing felt like it was losing a hold of her, which is why it decided to show itself and offer her material things in order to keep her. This thing was hoping that Teresa would choose material things over her recovery. Teresa does not want to say its name because she also found out that this thing gains power when people speak of its name. But she's also curious if this has happened to anyone else on here, if you guys have heard the same name. Like, she'll try to like confirm the name. If you guys, don't put it in my comments. I don't know how we're gonna do this, but like, she wants to know if any other person has come across this same D word with the same name, or if you have had the same experience of waking up in the middle of the night to your room filled with like a golden yellow light that's actually gold. Maybe put like the first letter of the name and then we'll kind of take it from there. I don't know.
Have you guys heard of Haitian powder? Now in Haiti, we call it poud. In Haiti, you have a lot more to worry about than just lougaous because people get really creative out there. There's a powder that people use. They would sprinkle it in front of your door. You probably wouldn't be able to see it, but you would sprinkle the poud in front of either somebody's business, home, wherever you want to catch that person, right? And the second they step on that powder, oh yeah, it's over. A lot of times people don't survive poud, and the way that it takes over them is so disturbing. There's basically no cure for it. Somebody submitted a spooky story about that, and let's get straight into it. We're gonna call the person who submitted the story Manushka. Manushka said when she was growing up in Haiti, she lost a cousin to voodoo. The cousin was only 16 years old. Her aunt was a voodoo pastor, and she built a home specifically to fight against them. And the painful part is that the cousin's own father was involved in voodoo, and so was her brother. Anyway, one night the cousin went out to a party. She came home late, and as she was walking into the house, she stepped on a white powder that had been laid out in front of their home. The very next day, cousin could not move her leg. It swelled up so badly, and she was in extreme pain. They rushed her to the hospital, but doctors told the aunt that there was nothing they can do for her. Desperate, the aunt contacted voodoo practitioners for answers. They told the aunt that there were only two options. Either they amputate the cousin's leg or she would die. And Manushka's cousin refused to have her leg cut off. And unfortunately, the cousin died soon after. Manushka said that even the cousin's law had warned everybody to prepare for her death, as they were told ahead of time that her death was coming. After the cousin passed, the aunt prepared the body in a specific way to find out who had placed the white powder in front of their house. And that's when they found out the truth. It was a cousin from their grandmother's side of the family. She killed Manushka's cousin out of jealousy, because Manushka's grandmother's children were able to travel to the United States. However, they were not. After the cousin's death, the aunt told them, be ready for war, because they continued attacking their family with voodoo. A same cousin from the grandmother's side came to the funeral wearing red clothes. Yo, it does not stop there, because that night, the jealous cousin tried to lift Manushka's cousin's spirit. So not only did she unalive her out of jealousy, but she also wanted her spirit after she passed. That's a certain level of hatred right there. But the aunt had already prepared the cousin's body so that they couldn't take her spirit. And in the end, it did not stop there, because they also killed the grandmother along with 6 of the grandmother's children. All because of jealousy. So I say that to say, people are wicked. If you have a spooky story that you want me to tell, feel free to submit it to me right here on TikTok or DM me on Instagram. Make sure you check out my YouTube. I have better, longer, and spookier stories. All you gotta do is look up Rebecca's Journey. Rebecca with a K and a H. Alright, y'all, I love you, my bloody humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl. By the way, if you're wondering about what's around my eyes, the Advanced Nail Hydrogel Eye Patch. That's how you run, don't walk, especially if you be having puffy eyes. Thank me later.
It's time for another spooky story. I am Ottoman Appalachia. Send me your spooky stories and add me on Facebook, same handle. Also, in my last video, I thanked you guys for 13K. I wake up and we're a little over 15K. Wow. Thank you so much for the love and support. As usual, keep it kind in the comments. Without further ado. Tonight's story comes from Kate. She will be tagged in this video, and she will be reading the comments because she is curious to know if anybody else shares a similar experience to her. Kate said she is normally a good sleeper and that seldomly she'll have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. On this particular night, she wakes up, she has to pee, gets up, does her business, and she begins washing her hands afterward when she glances up at herself in the mirror. Now, when she makes eye contact with herself in the mirror, she gets a horrible sinking feeling in her stomach because although it looks like her to an extent, she does not recognize the person staring back at her in the mirror as herself. Kate's features looked slightly off. She said that her face was like more thin and long than it normally was. Her eyes looked bigger. Her hair looked flatter and straighter than normal, especially after sleeping. She didn't have like that normal bed head. And creepiest of all, the head tilt was off. Like the thing was not holding its head at the same angle that Kate knows she was holding her head. She said it was like it was supposed to be her, but it wasn't. And when she saw it, she felt like she was seeing something she wasn't supposed to. So she looks back down. She refuses to like look back up, make eye contact with herself. This thing quickly finishes washing her hands, goes lays back down in the bed, and she said that she just laid there like kind of reeling from it. She knows for a fact she was awake. She was not asleep. It was not a dream, some sort of sleep paralysis thing, and she just has to wait for her adrenaline to die down before she is eventually able to drift off back to sleep. And that is pretty much where it ends. Kate said in a general sense she is familiar with the paranormal but has never gone through anything like that before. Not before that time and not since that time. It is something she still thinks about frequently, doesn't quite know how to explain, and she is pretty anxious to know if anybody else has a similar experience with like seeing themselves in the mirror, but it wasn't quite them, right? I hope to God I never see anything like that. I ain't trying to furk around and find out. Y'all know what they say about mirrors, right? Let me know what you think in the comments and stay tuned for some more spooky stories.
All right, what's up, Mama? Okay, Mama. Okay, all right, Mama. You said that you got bit on your leg by a frog.
Yeah, I mean, my calf, I would think I was like 7 years old. Me and my siblings, we was outside playing in the grass. And, you know, it had rained. And we was outside just playing in the water and stuff. And all of a sudden, this frog, about this big, jumped behind my calf. And he bit my calf, and he was hanging off with them big old teeth. Frog got teeth. My daddy keeps saying frog ain't got no. Everybody keeps saying frog ain't got no teeth.
You sure it was a frog?
You sound like my daddy now. Yes, I'm sure. This frog had. I can see. It was a frog. That's why I'm afraid of frogs. Now you run me lost with a frog, cause I am so afraid of frogs. This frog had big teeth. You can see the pink gums and the teeth. He was hanging off the back of my calf of my leg. And I ran in the house. I told my daddy. My daddy was laughing. My mama, my siblings, they was all laughing. Told I was a fool. I was no. Frog got teeth.
Oh.
They got big teeth. The one I saw. And that frog was hanging off the back of my. I mean, and when he left, you can see the teeth prints on the back calf of my leg. And my daddy, come on outside and show me where this frog is at. I was scared to go outside. And so my brother and my sisters, they said, we gonna go outside and we gonna try to find him. That's why I'm afraid of frogs today. I would not.
So how
not look, even now when I went to school, because I was in school, you know, but when I went to high school, and you know, biology, you have to dissect frogs and little bitty pigs. And when I was in high school, I used to always tell my teacher, I might have been like in the 9th grade, 10th, and I told him, I don't, you know, be dissecting a frog, I'm not gonna do it.
So
and I would cry. I would cry every time, and he would give me like paperwork.
You was scared like that when you started crying?
I'm scared today of a frog, and he would give me like paperwork to do. You know,
instead of dissecting
the frog, and I wouldn't even I wouldn't even not be in the room. I wouldn't even not be in the class when they dissect the frogs and stuff. I had to go to the library.
So
I
let me
wasn't gonna do it.
let me ask you, how did you get the frog off your leg?
I knocked it off my hand. Cause when I felt something just stinging. It hurt so bad. And when I look back, I see this frog hanging from the back of my, calf, and I see teeth and gums. I'm telling the truth. I swear. I promise you.
That is crazy.
And I see this frog hanging off the back of my calf, teeth and gum. I'm telling you. That's why today I'm so afraid of frogs. I am. And so I think it was we had went to I'm from down south, but we went home and they were still cooking like chicken, frog legs, and when they bought them frog legs out in that basket, I wasn't trying to knock that out. Me eating a frog? No.
Let's read another scary story that was sent to us. Back in 2020, me being 16 and rebelling against my mom, I snuck out to meet with 2 of my friends at about 2 a.m. We met up at the local school near my house and were there for about an hour before this man started to circle the area where we were sitting. He kept doing the whistle that Negan does in The Walking Dead every time he walked by us, so we decided it would be a good idea to just go home. With me being the oldest in the group, I offered to walk the other 2 home as they were going to the same area and it wasn't that far from my house. So we set off. About 10-ish minutes into the walk, we heard the whistle again, but we couldn't see anyone but a deer when we looked around. We made a joke that we were probably just paranoid and continued on the walk just talking about random stuff. Then when we were about a block away, we heard it again. And then again as it started to be more frequent, and that's when we saw the man. He had been following us. We panicked, so we started running and ran through a few different streets and an alleyway before reaching the house. I made sure they were inside before quickly starting to walk home. The man was once again following from afar. I was only a street away from my house by now, but I was starting to cry, and my adrenaline was kicking in because I had to walk through a dark, bushy trail to get to my street. And I could hear the whistling getting closer. So I made a quick turn and ran onto the front porch of the first house I saw with the lights on, despite it being about 3:30 a.m. I repeatedly rang the doorbell and knocked until a man spoke through the doorbell and asked what I was doing. I cried as I told him I was being followed and had been for a good 20 minutes by that point. So he and his wife came downstairs, and the man drove me home and waited until I was inside my house before leaving. It was not the only time this man had followed me, as it happened a few months later, and I have a sinking feeling he had actually been watching me for a couple of years with a different friend, as no matter what time of day it was, whenever we were playing by the river, there was always a man watching from the tree line. It stopped after I turned 17, but I'll always remember that whistle and the sheer horror I felt knowing that not only was I gonna have to go through a dark trail with him behind me, but that he was gonna know where I lived. When I got home, I told my mother and her boyfriend about it. My mom didn't entirely believe me, and neither did her boyfriend. Okay, when are parents gonna start believing their kids? I mean, this person literally had to run to somebody's house and have them take them home. They're probably not making it up. I will say though, y'all, and a lot of y'all probably were thinking the same thing as me. They were walking through the dark, okay, and whistling is going on, and then at one point all they could see was a deer. That sounds like a Skiggly Wiggly. Whether it was a Skiggly Wiggly or not, men are scary, especially at nighttime. But I'm glad that they got away and nothing worse happened, and I'm glad that the whistling and the following has stopped. But I think that could have been some weird cryptid creature. I don't know. What do y'all think?
You guys, the creepiest, scariest thing just happened to me. I was taking a nap before I come to the bus stop to get my daughter from the bus. And fuck, I thought I was dreaming at first. I heard my name being called in my house, right? And I get up, I fucking stand up really fast because I'm home alone right now. Or I was home alone, right fucking 2 minutes ago. I heard my name, my full government fucking name, not my marital last name, my full, birthed name. So I shoot up off the couch and I notice that the basement light is on, which it was not on. There's something in my fucking tooth. Just ignore that, okay? But so I noticed that the basement light is on and it was not on. Nobody ever goes down there. And it just creeps me out to know because like I made a video about it like a couple days ago. I keep hearing noises from my fucking basement. I keep having nightmares and scary dreams and shit like I used to have when I was a child. And I swear that this all stems back to the Ouija board incident. I'm gonna tell you guys that story time later because I know I promised you guys I would tell that and I haven't done it yet. I've just been so fucking tired. Like I can't sleep because of these nightmares and I'm a night shift worker so like I'm just exhausted and I'm also a mom. So like on top of everything, like this is just happening. So, and yeah, I've saged my house. I've like done Palo Santo. I've done like some spell work and stuff, you know, like nothing's working. This thing has been following me for like, it feels like centuries at this point, dude. I don't know what to do. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. We'll make updates when they come.
Oh, hey, it's story time. Boom, boom, it's story time. Boom, boom, paranormal Chicago activity. With Cat G. Hey, y'all, I got a story about a witch who trapped a woman to forever live in the snow like she's in a snow globe. There is a street in Lincoln Park. Is it considered Lincoln Park? I don't know if it's considered Lincoln Park. So somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a street called Goethe. And just how it sounds, it looked the same way. Like it's got this heavy gothic vibe to it. It's really fucking creepy. All the way down to the people who be walking up and down the street. Like they look like they mysterious. Like everything about this gives, I came straight out of a book of Sherlock Holmes, okay? You get the vibe. Well, I was working as a nanny for this lady who was a lawyer, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you, the only reason why I got this job is because she knew I was a star child. She knew me before I knew her. Of course, she knew my grandma. I was working at Kohl's and she has twin girls. These, I swear to God, they portal jumpers. Every time they came into this store, one would be over here and then one would be over here and then both of them is over here, okay? Listen, I know for a fact that children can make their own realms, okay? When we jump into those clothing racks and then all of a sudden you don't see us no more, but you hear us, there's a reason. It ain't just because we disappeared in the clothes. We in a whole different realm, okay? Now this one particular time, they did a round jump and where they came out at, they was near this big ass ladder that had all this stuff on it and I actually stopped them from running into the ladder. She asked me how was I able to track where they was at and I was like, it's a special gift. She literally squinted her eyes and I felt like minty Pringles. I say minty because like, you know how like when you smell mint, it kind of tingle a little bit. That's how it felt. It felt like mint. It was tingling all around my third eye, but I knew it was a good thing, okay? So I looked at her and I opened up a little bit and she was like, ooh, yeah. So, how much I got to pay you to quit this job and come be my kid's nanny? How much money we talking about, lady? She said, girl, I'm black and a lawyer. How much you talking about? See, I knew I liked you. I knew it. Being at her house is when I found out she was actually a witch, and she's kind of like a witch like me. It's kind of like practical magic. I was able to learn stuff from her. She was able to learn stuff from me. I was able to teach her kids. Her kids showed me a lot. It was a beautiful relationship. But then when we got closer to the wintertime, her kids started getting scared. Like they did not like going outside no more. And I'm trying to understand why don't kids like going outside in the snow? Because even though I'm an adult who hate the snow, as a kid, what? I'm frolicking in this bitch. We got fresh snow. I'm talking about the perfect snowball snow, okay? We finna make snowballs. We gonna make snow angels. We gonna make snowmen. If we can, we gonna build a motherfucking igloo, goddammit. Let's do it. These kids, they don't want no parts. No parts. I'm trying to figure it out. I go talk to their mama, and she was like, okay, you know what? Remember how I told you you can't never go in my office? Okay, I'm finna show you why you can't go in my office. She gets to her office, though. She put this special looking key in a hole that I ain't never seen in this door before. If y'all haven't seen this TV series, is it Lock and Key House? Lock House, Key House. It's on Netflix. It's about a little boy. He find these little keys around the house. They go into different little doors and different little objects. They open up different things. It's freaky. I love it because it low-key look like my life. I'ma just say. But anyways, she put this key in the door. And when she turned it, you can hear stuff in the door actually unlocking. And I'm like, girl, what the fuck? What am I getting myself into? It's the same setup as her lawyer's office. Like in her lawyer's office, she has this huge corner desk. It's got up and down cabinets in the backside, and in the front of that it's a big old L-shaped, kind of like a U-ish desk, and it's got this big old wing back chair. I absolutely love it because it also had these little vibrator thingies in it so it can massage you too. Listen, very classy. Now all over the desk, papers, books, plants, vials with pretty little colors in it. She got bugs all over the walls. It's stuff posted all over the wall. Like, listen, every bit of a witch's den just like elevated. And I loved it. She sit me down and she said, you know what? We're gonna have to talk about the high witch that live in the penthouse. See, this is where we have issues because high witches, these bitches, I can't stand them, okay? They got too much power. They got too much pizzazz. They got too much ego. Fuck them. Give me a humble, down-to-earth witch any day, like myself. She tell me about how the man who lives across the hall from her, the witch wanted him to marry her daughter, but he was in love with his wife and he refused to leave her. And the witch said, if you refuse to leave her, then I'm gonna have to curse you. The man's wife loved everything Christmas, like literally everything Christmas. And it just so happened that this one year on Christmas Eve, while they was having a Christmas Eve party, the witch's daughter came down there trying to seduce the husband, and the wife wasn't having none. She literally embarrassed that woman, and she went home and told her mama, and her mama was like, wait a minute, hold on. We got men telling us no, and you got women embarrassing you in public. Bitch, we can't have this. So seeing how she want to have her perfect little family and have the perfect little Christmas, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to trap her in the snow. I'm sitting there like, I said, huh? What do you mean trap her in the snow? Like in the snow globe? And that lady was like, no, like literally in the snow. The only time that woman can show up is if it's physically snowing outside. If there is no snow on the ground, her spirit cannot be in this realm. What? She said, oh yeah. And then an even bigger fuck you to them. She cursed the husband to never be able to fall in love with another woman and live the rest of his days yearning for the snow for his wife to come back. Girl, what? She said, now get this. Because this is a high witch, you can't just go and break her spells like that. It's going to take another high witch to go and break her spells. And during that can start a fucking war. So people really don't want to touch it. I said, okay, so why he just don't move away to somewhere that got snow 24/7? And she said, because she tied her to this land. He can't even sell his condo. He got to be here forever. She trapped his wife in the snow, and now he can't go. This some bullshit. Sis gotta go. She tell me, Kat, we've been trying to get rid of her. We can't get rid of her. We can't even get close enough to get an energy signature off of her for us to even figure out what type of mattress she actually used so we can counteract it. So, like, for real, she been terrorizing this area for over 100 years. Huh? When you mean? She said, yeah, she was here when this building was first built. Like, literally. She's been here since it was first built. No one really knows how old she is. Ain't nobody asked the people. She said, yeah, we've tried to ask. And you know how people just dust it off like, how do we really know a woman's age? You know how we are. Bitch, find a birth certificate. That's how you find out, ho. Now I'm mad. I'm mad because who the fuck is this bitch? How dare you sit up here and curse somebody else because they don't want your dusty, crusty, rusty ass daughter? You really just cursed the whole family line, like, just to sit here and think like this man literally can never leave his fucking condo. Like, He cannot go anywhere because you trapped him here. And the only way that he can go is if he cahoodle with your dusty, crusty, musty, rusty ass daughter. Now I'm finna make it my business to get rid of this bitch because who the fuck are you? I got the loyal lady cracking up. She was like, girl, let me tell you something. I believe that you could get rid of her if you cross her line and actually hold your own. If that happened, I'll give you every tool I got. Y'all, we was coming back from the park one day. That old ass witch was in the elevator. She looked me up and down 2 times and she was like, you will not cross my path. Baby, when I tell you I took the biggest step into that motherfucking elevator because who, bitch? Not me. You not telling the Gemini what she can and cannot do. I know you're not. Her eyes went wide as hell and she flew out the motherfucking elevator. The lawyer lady said, yeah, we got some training to do. And we're going to talk about that in part 2. Boom, boom, it's story time. Boom, boom, paranormal Chicago active with Cat G. Hey y'all, hey, and today I am not gonna leave you hanging. Here's part 2 of The Witch That Lived on Goethe Street. We left off when that lady stood in that elevator and she looked me up and down and was like, you will not cross my path. You don't tell a Gemini what she will and will not do. Bitch, I crossed. I did. She looking at me, I'm looking at her. We two looking motherfuckers. Now, I crossed your path. What? Sis hightailed it up out of that damn elevator. Now, the lawyer lady, she looking at me and she... you shouldn't be able to do that. Who the fuck? I don't got no energy signature coming off of you for real. Like, what's happening? I say, yeah, we need to go to your witchy room and we need to talk because who the fuck is she? We go up to her witchy office and she give me a grimoire. It's a whole bloodline history about this woman. Apparently they got a long bloodline of witches that come all the way back from like old England. Like they literally came over here so that they could do what they really wanted to do because the Catholic Church wouldn't let them do it over there. So yeah, no bueno. So my lawyer boss lady get to telling me about how they don't know what it is about her that keeps her away from everybody else. Like it's something that literally propels people away from her. Can't nobody get within 10 feet of her ass. But those people wasn't like me because I know a lot of powers. So that's not gonna work. So we really like trying to understand what is on her that is charmed that could possibly do it, and we couldn't figure it out. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not finna sit up here and be like, ding, 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 we got it. No, bitch, we didn't. You wanna know how I got it? Through a snowball fight. Yes, a snowball fight. This is like maybe 4 days. Matter of fact, it was 7 days before Christmas. Okay. It had just snowed, and I'm talking about a good snow. I'm talking about that snow, as soon as you crush it in your hand, it's an instant snowball. Oh yeah, we going outside to play this time. Me and Miss Lawyer Boss Lady, we bless the girls. The girls feel okay. We finally get out the door. Great. We at the park, we playing. One of the little girls run up to me. She's terrified. I said, what's wrong? She said, the lady is here. I'm looking for her. I can't find her. Today is an awesome day to for real bring your kids to this park. And everybody who had kids, I feel like everybody was out there this day. So now I'm really like, I'm low-key terrified because if it's a dark witch that's around kids, I already know that she trying to look for something that she finna use. And baby, these may not be my kids, but they my kids. And baby, I'ma take you out over them. I'm looking around for her sister. I say, where your sissy? She point up. She at the top of the damn slide. She looking in a certain direction. I look in that direction. That's what a witch bitch is. Now, I can't sit up here and do nothing to this woman because we in broad daylight. And it's hella kids and hella people out here. I don't need no attention like that. I see that the witch lady got her eyes set on somebody's kids. Not one of my 2 little girls, but somebody else's kids. And again, like I told you, I don't give a fuck. They ain't got to share my blood. They ain't got to come out my womb. They ain't got to be from my family. If I see a kid in danger, I'm going toe to toe for them every time. So quick thinking on my feet. The only thing that I could think of is I got to do something to propel this woman away from this area. I'm gonna pick up this snowball and put all my fury into this snowball and whack the shit out of her. And y'all, baby, when I tell you, I pitched the shit out of this snowball. I hit her so hard she stumbled. Her little hat go a little bit crooked. I told you she looked like a bogus ass Mary Poppins. I hated that fucking hat on Mary Poppins. I hate it on this lady too. She make eye contact with me. Whole time I'm tapping into my inner child so my inner child can tap into every other kid around me. Bitch, snowball. Before she can get out a word, every kid on that playground got the lobbing snowballs at her. But she's starting to get mad. Like, she really starting to get mad, and I'm starting to see time is slowing down. So she's dodging these fucking balls. I'm trying to think of a way to be able to do something to her that's not going to affect other people in this area, because my emotions is out of this world right now. I am Mama Bear, and all of these kids out here is my fucking cubs. Bitch, you got the... Just as I'm thinking that I need help, it's like somebody unleashed a Gatling gun full of snowballs on this bitch. I don't know where the fuck these snowballs came from. Is they from the heavens, Lord? Did you really send physical help? I look over, it's a group of teenagers coming out of the damn bushes. They scream, get her. It's another group of teenagers that come out from over this side. What is fucking happening? They hitting her so hard and fast, she don't know what the fuck to do. They hit her this one good, I'm talking about whoever the hell it was, they got to have the hand of a goddamn giant, because this snowball was so big, it was bigger than my head. Knocked this woman on her ass. Now, this particular park is like on a slope, so when she falls, she get to rolling backwards. As she's rolling backwards, she drops her bag. One of the boys from the first team screamed, drop the bag, grab it, let's go. What the fuck you mean she dropped the bag, grab it, let's go? Everything was happening so fast that my brain told me, grab the kids, get back to the house. And that's exactly what the fuck I did. On my way to the house, I got one over my shoulder and the other one is under my arm. And I'm trying to call their mama at the same time. I'm huffing and puffing. Y'all, listen, at this point in time, I'm asthmatic and my lungs is on fucking fire. But I don't give a damn. I got to get these kids back to this house. Some told me to get the kids to the house. I'm going to get the kids to the house. I finally get their mama on the phone. She like, yeah, get them to the house. You got to take them to my special room. I say, yeah, I don't got a key to your special room. Only you got a key to your special room. She said, they bracelet. Take the charms, put them together, put them in the door. It's going to open up a room just for them. Put them in there, lock the key in the door with them, stay outside the door. Heard. I do exactly what she say. Open up the door with the charms. Right on the inside of the door, it's like a tool belt of different little vials and stuff. She tell me to grab it and be ready for anything that come down the hallway. Heard. As soon as I lock the door, all of a sudden I hear something banging on the front door. Boom, 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 boom. It's mad as hell. I'm talking about mad as fuck. It's like 5 different voices stacked on top of each other coming out of one person. Give me my bag. Bitch, I ain't got your bag. Lies you tell. Give me my bag or I take it. You said what? I'm walking down the hallway. I'm mad as hell. Before I can get halfway down the hallway, I hear a voice over the intercom. It's their mama. She say, go back to the door and don't move until I tell you to. You ain't gonna tell me. Let me take my black ass back to this motherfucking door. I didn't even know that you had cameras and intercoms in this bitch. I am sad. The witch at the door, she get the banging and give me my bag or I'm taking the kids. This time, the what came from the outside of the motherfucking door. The witch say, what are you doing here? Mama Lawyer Bear say, no bitch, what are you doing here? And you threatening my kids? Why are you on my floor? Miss Witch bitch say, do you know who? And before she could finish it, I hear glass breaking. I already know what it is. She throwing vials at her ass. The witch mad as hell. What is this? What is this? What are you doing? Stop. She, no, you ain't tough without that bag. Now you. What the fuck is in the bag? Somebody tell me what's in the bag. It's a real live tussle outside. And I'm sorry, I just sit here. So I go to the door. As soon as I open up the door, she closed the motherfucker. Didn't I tell you to stay? Yes, bitch, you did, and I am. But guess what? My eyeball in this motherfucking peephole. What the fuck going on out here? I couldn't see shit. I was mad as hell. Well, I want to know what the hell is going on. The lights in the apartment get the flickering. Flick, 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 flick. The girls in the room, they get the screaming. I had glass in the room screaming. I already know what that means. It means that they protection wars is going on. But guess what? I can't get in the door because the door is locked from the hell. What am I supposed to do? I heard a high-pitched scream from outside in the hallway, and then there was nothing. Lights stopped flickering, the girl stopped screaming, building stopped rumbling. I get to doing mantras. They mama walking in. She looked like she just went and fought the devil. Clothes ripped up, makeup smeared across her face. It looked like some of her hair was pulled out. She put her hands over my third eye. She scribing. She want to know where the boys at, who got the bag. They took the bag. She see it. She look at me and she say, we going on a field trip. And that will be in part 3. Aren't I a little stinker? All together in 3, 2, 1. Boom, boom, it's story time. Boom, boom, paranormal Chicago activity with Cat G. Hey, y'all, hey, and this is part 3 to the witch that lived on Goethe Street. Let's go. For those of you who don't know, it's 2 other videos. You gotta go back. We talking about a witch who lived on Goethe Street who decided that she wanted to be big, bad, and in charge and locked the lady in the snow and a man in his house to where they could never see each other unless it was snow on the ground in Chicago. Okay, so boom. We left off where they was going at it in the hallway. I'm talking about all kind of shit is breaking in this motherfucking hallway. I'm trying to see out the peephole. I can't see out the peephole. Everything go quiet. Ain't no sounds. Ain't no lights flickering. There is absolutely nothing. Miss Lawyer Boss Lady, she come through the door, walking down the hallway. This woman looked like she been put through the ringer. Shirt ripped up like she was fighting some type of big ass cat. It's a chunk of her hair missing, makeup smeared all over her. She walking looking like a straight zombie. Straight face, eyes trained on the door for the girl. I stepped out her way because I don't know if you're in a mother's haze. A mother's haze is when she don't see nothing but her kids, and anything standing in between gots to go, no matter if you friend or foe. She put her key in the door, you hear the door unlocking, and then it's a smell of sofa that come through the door. Now I'm terrified because why the fuck, why? Why is it sofa? The door swing all the way open, and it's a big ass puddle of black tar looking shit in the middle of the room. I see the tar. I'm not paying attention that the tar is on top of a pentagram. She tell me to stop moving. She say something in a language I don't know. I ain't never. And then it literally feels like energy unzipped. You know how static electricity feel across a ball? Okay, take that across the whole damn room. I look back at the spot on the floor. It's something that's in the spot that wasn't there before. And now I'm backing up to the wall. She throw a couple of more valves onto the spot on the floor. The thing get the smoking and bubbling and shit, and then it's gone. They family have a crest. I told you all supernaturals got a crest. That woman walk over to the crest and she do the protection knock. Now I hear the girls crying from a big ass wardrobe. Lawyer Boss Lady opened up the wardrobe door, and now it's sunlight coming out of the damn wardrobe door on some Chronicle of Narnia shit. The girls come running out, they screaming, mommy, 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 the thing, they tried to get us, they tried to get us. We used it. We used the orange one like you said. Orange what? What you got? I want some. If 2 little 4-year-olds just sat up here and brought down whatever the fuck that is, I'ma need it now. That lady looked at me and she said, Kat, you gotta come with us. Let's go. Where we going? I'm not, you want me to just walk? No, ma'am. You got to explain. She said, I don't have to explain what's already understood. Let's go. The fuck you mean what's understood? I can't control my feet because curiosity got my ass. By the time my brain registered anything, I'm already walking into the fucking wardrobe. And if you guess my ass walked out into the fairy realm that I used to play in as a kid, you're fucking right. I'm confused as hell. First of all, I ain't supposed to be able to come back here. So how the hell am I here? Second of all, why you got a portal to here? Cause who the fuck? I need explanation. That lady looked at me. She said, "You don't remember me?" See, this is. Here we go with my mama and my grandma doing something to my memory again. Come on, you finna awaken something else. Let's go. She said, you don't remember the lady who used to bring them big ass bushels of greens over there to your grandma's house, and we closed the kitchen and we took care of the greens, and then when we was done, we finally opened up the kitchen again? Yeah, actually I do. Because if it wasn't for you, my little 6-year-old fingertips wouldn't have been rubbed raw from shucking green. Now I'm looking at this lady even harder, and I finally noticed that her eyes is silver. Not gray, not hazel, silver. I remember one time, because I asked too many questions, and I asked my grandma about that woman, and she told me that she was an earthly healer. And every time they make greens, when people eat the greens, don't they get better afterwards? And I was like, yeah. She was like, right, because we bless the green. All these memories is flooding back to me at one time, and I'm trying to figure out why the hell didn't I remember this anyway? I remember every fucking thing else. Why didn't I remember? She told me because those memories of her are tied to something else that I had to help her and my grandma achieve, and I can't know about it yet. Now I'm even more fucking perplexed because what you mean I can't know about it yet? Back then to now, it's been 20 something years. Why I can't know it now? And she said, you ain't supposed to know till your 30th birthday. Great. Keep me waiting even longer. You're awesome. Now we walking in the fairy realm. We are in this thick forest. I absolutely don't know where we're at until I see this one particular tree. In the real world, there's a tree called a rainbow tree. I don't know the scientific name of it, but literally the tree trunk looks like a color pencil can just be taken out of it of any color. I see the same tree in the fairy realm, and I'm like, damn, I only seen that tree in one place when I used to come here, and that was at Evangeline's cottage, which is exactly where we wound up going to. We walked through the door. Miss Evangeline turned around. She see me. I see her. She say, oh shit, you done brought the star child. What happened? Well, hello to you too, old lady. What the hell is going on? Miss Lawyer Boss Lady, sit down, tell Miss Evangeline everything. Miss Evangeline look at me and she say, you would be the one to take down the high witch. She give us a green and silver box. Told us don't open it until we get to the old man doorstep. Once we give it to him, he gonna know what's in it. But before we do all of that, we gotta go find them kids with that bag. Miss Lawyer Boss Lady never changed her clothes because she got the witch's blood all over her. So Miss Evangeline took the shirt, did some type of spell over it for her to scribe and see where the bag is, and boom, we find it. Come to find out, unfortunately, the damn bag is out west in Cabrini Green. Oh my God. If it's any land in the city of Chicago that's cursed, it's the land that all of the Cabrini Green buildings was on. I don't give a damn if they gone and there's something new that's right there now. That land is fucking cursed and it will forever be cursed. So I don't like going over there, but we gotta go over. Go figure they in them, and then try that again. Try it again. Slow down. Slow down. Go figure they're over there in an apartment that's close to my old college. Shout out to Le Cordon Bleu Culinary Institute. Woo-hoo. We walk in. The security guard look at us. He look at me. Did he look at Miss Lawyer Boss Lady? He sit back down. I don't know if they had some type of telepathy thing going on, but I'm not gonna ask no question. I'm also not gonna ask how the hell Miss Lawyer Lady knew exactly which apartment to go to, but bitch, we was there on the 7th floor. Of course it was the 7th floor, right? Not only was it the 7th floor, but it's the 7th apartment. We get up to the door, it's a certain type of smell coming from the door. It's not weed, it's not no animals, it's not something dead, but it's something very specific. I really don't know what it is. I can't put my mind to it, right? Miss Lawyer Lady, she take a deep breath and she pull out a purple piece of chalk, draw a circle on it and 2 lines through it. Put her hand on the circle and got to saying something in a different fucking language. As soon as she took her hand down, the dude who yelled, grab the bag, opened the door. He look at me, he like, what the fuck? Then he look at the lawyer lady. When I tell y'all the color drained from this man's face, he pissed himself. I look up at her. She don't look like the lawyer lady that I knew before. Now I'm scared because goddamn, oh my God, did you just transform on me? She looked like a cross between a tiger and a human. Absolutely terrifying. 2 words. 2 words. Bag now. Homeboy took off running into the apartment. Grabbed the bag. Somebody behind him screaming, what are you doing? What are you doing? We have to get rid of. Like 6 of them is coming down the hallway right behind them. They stopping their tracks because they see boss lady lawyer bitch over here and transformed into something. I don't even know what the hell she is. The boys say she got my mama and my auntie in there. That's why we took it. I tell him, don't worry, we finna release him. He falls to his knees, he get the crying. The boys behind him get the crying, screaming, please help our people, they in there too. I hear the regular voice of the lawyer lady say, don't worry, everybody will be rescued. I look back at her, she in her human form again. Girl, I'm still scared of you. I might have to find another job because this is too much. Boom, we get back to her house. We in the witch's den. We open up the witch bitch bag and it's a million different vials in this bag. Every vial has some type of wispy smoke of a different color in it. I hold one of them up into the sunlight and I swear I seen somebody's face. So I dropped it. She catch it in the blink of an eye. She say, please don't Please don't break these. We gotta set these souls free. How many souls this woman got? Baby, when I tell you the answer is coming in part 4, I'm sorry. I only got 10 minutes. Y'all gonna have to be mad. Did I keep you waiting long enough? Boom, boom, it's story time. Boom, boom, paranormal Chicago active. Wit, catchy. That's me. And I got y'all on the edge of your seats, don't I? Come on in here for this part 4. Okay, so boom. Recap. We talking about a witch that live on Goethe Street in Chicago. This bitch was bad. She sat up here, got mad that this man turned down her daughter. She sat up here, cursed the man, can't never leave his apartment. And the wife, she can't never leave the snow. Like literally, the snow. The only time she could touch down on this realm is if it's snow out on the ground in Chicago. We done went through a whole goddamn battle because the bitch tried to come and get my kids. Well, not my kids. They was kids that I was the nanny of. But they still my kids because what the fuck? The lady that I'm working for, her kids is the ones that I'm protecting. She a lawyer and a supernatural. She a supernatural and a witch. Freaky. Come to find out, she know Miss Evangeline, the lady who taught me all my gifts. And she got a door to the fairy world that I couldn't go back to. And now we back there because we got to talk to Miss Evangeline. Miss Evangeline told us that we had to go get the bag back from the boys who stole the bag from the witches when we was having a snowball fight in the middle of the damn park. We go back, get the bag. We tell the boys that we gonna take care of it. Come to find out, the boys' parents' souls is in little vials in the bag. That's the reason why they took it. They was trying to set their parents. But they don't know how to do all that. That's where we come. Now that you're caught up, back to the store. Okay, so boom, we get the bag from the boys and we're going back to the house. We gotta go back to the lawyer lady house. So we go through the door so we can open up the portal, go back to the fairy world, go back to Miss Evangeline house. We gotta figure out how to get all these souls out of this damn bag. We get to lawyer boss lady house, and as soon as she put the key in her front door, we know something is wrong. The door opened up and all we smell is sulfur. It's everywhere. It's so heavy that it's suffocating. It's the same smell that I smelled when the creature got into the room with the girls and they took care of it. It was the same fucking smell. So now I'm terrified. I didn't get to see the creature, but the mess that the creature left on the floor, I know it had to been big and scary, and I'm not cut out for this. I'm not cut out for this. Ms. Lawyer say, you still got that tool belt? I say, yes, ma'am. She said, all right, go in there, take out the blue and the green. Blue in your left hand, green in your right hand. Say these words. The forsaken who wishes to be seen, may it be revealed. Throw the damn vials on the ground, smoke every damn well. But see, look, this not normal smoke. This smoke is silver with like purple glitteries. She say some words in a language I ain't never heard before. And next thing you know, you hear something screech like a hurt animal, and then a window break. We run to the girls' room. That's where the sound came from. Well, apparently, whatever the fuck is in the vials, it expelled the little demon thing, and it jumped out the fucking window. Now, I'm trying to figure out what the hell they in here looking for, because the girls is not in this room. They in the fairy room. And the bag is with us. They should know that we got the bag because I'm pretty sure it got an energy signature. The girls' room and the office is absolutely trash. This thing didn't just rip the books off the shelves. It ripped the shelves out the fucking wall. Ripped up the couches, ripped up the bed. It's filling everywhere. Papers, books, every fucking way. Just a mess. Miss Loyal Lady go back into the girls' room. She gets a grimoire. But the grimoire is inside of a tapestry. Like she said something to the tapestry, rubbed the frame, and then put her hand directly into it. Little bitty old blue, white, and black book. I ain't never seen it before. But let me tell you something. As soon as she had this book in her hand, the lights in the apartment got the flicker. Here we go the fuck again. God, in the girls' room, right above the door, it looked like a little science experiment kit. It's about 10 different vials, 10 different colors. They sitting up there. As the lights get to flickering, the orange vial burst open. This is the first time that I physically seen Lawyer Boss Lady scared. You know what it looked like when somebody is the perfect milk chocolate skin tone and they so scared that they go white, they damn near look dead? Yeah, that's what we looking like right now. I'm finna say something to her, but it felt like something shut my lips. I look at her, she shake her head. From what sounded like the living room, you could hear a low, deep growl. I heard that growl before, and I'm absolutely petrified. A couple of stories back, I told y'all about how we had actually defeated a witch who was actually feeding off of children in the fairy realm. Well, she got little things that work for her. Soul collectors. I know that's what I hear. These things vicious. They bringing you to the witch, dead or alive. And honestly, she don't fucking care. She just needs your soul essence. Boss lady motion over towards the closet. When we get to the closet, it's like, it looked like a pendant on the door. It's an X with a red ruby in the middle of it. She turns it until the ruby is upside down. It's like it had a certain cut on it. Anyways, she turned it until it went upside down. The door literally glowed white, and when she opened it, we was in the fairy realm. We ain't have to go back to her office. We slowly closed that door and took off running to Miss Evangeline's house. We tell her what happened. She said, we ain't got that much time. Hurry. We pour all of the vials out of the bag. Y'all, when I said it was like 1,000 vials, yeah, I thought I was over exaggerating. I wasn't. It was more like 5,000. The amount of people who go missing in Chicago is not just because somebody somewhere is an evil mastermind. It's supernaturals at play. And this high witch bitch been on her high horse for entirely too long. Miss Evangeline say, we're not going to be able to do a proper ritual over every last one of these. So we're going to have to do something big. She go get a cauldron. We put all the vials in the cauldron. She fill up the cauldron with different herbs, a special holy liquid, all kind of shit. She get to praying over everything. Now all the vials, they are glowing. You can clearly see people's faces in the glass. Miss Evangeline climbed up on the chair and had her walking stick in her hand. She put it over the cauldron. She said another prayer, and then she just get to smash. While she up here looking like she churning butter, we see that the sky is going orange. Miss Lawyer Boss Lady like, yeah, we got to hurry this up because something is coming. Miss Evangeline kicking it to overdrive. She breaking the damn vows and she's saying her prayers at the same time. You see the little souls one by one, they trickling up out of the cauldron into the east. Now it's starting to sound like a stampede of fucking rhinos is coming straight for Miss Evangeline house. Miss Evangeline look at me, she says, Star Child, I'm gonna ask you to do something very difficult, but it's absolutely necessary. There's only a couple of things that this woman could ask me to do, and out of those couple of things, I don't want to do now one of them. She said, you know, you got to go down to the water and ask the Holy Mother for strength, for dispelment. And that right there is the one thing that I did not want to do because me and Oshun, we got a love-hate relationship. Even though I don't want to, I know that she's right, and I go down to this water, I completely submerge myself under. Before taking my last breath, I say one protection spell, go under, and I completely meditate, and I'm calling out to the Holy Mother. The children of your womb are in trouble. We need help. Please fill me with your spirit. I don't know if she was waiting for me to get in that water because as soon as I finished that sentence, water filled into my lungs. I know I'm not supposed to struggle against it, but goddamn it, I feel like I'm finna die. It's the hard part about it because she got to take over me. I don't like not being in control. I didn't come out that water until those beasts stepped over Miss Evangeline's boundary line. Just as they were about to jump over the gate, Oshun wrapped them up in a ball of water. Used me to project her voice, and I cast a dispelment, and she helps me use the powers of dispelment. The sky go black. I'm talking about absolute black. And then little fairy lights start flickering into effect around Miss Evangeline's house. Demons, they gone. Oshun took care of them with the water. As the water ball dissipates, the witch is standing there in its place. Miss Evangeline must have already knew what was happening because she was standing right at the gate, just looking, wait. They having words with each other, and Miss Evangeline is crying. She's literally begging this woman, please don't make me do this. The woman is irate. She is hell-bent on getting whatever the fuck she wanted from this universe, no matter if she's supposed to have it or not. Miss Evangeline said, I love you, sister, and threw some type of black liquid all over her. Homegirl went up in flames instantly, screaming, how can you do this to me? Once the witch bitch is gone, Miss Evangeline turns towards me. She thanks the Holy Mother for protection and asks us to release me. Because, baby, listen, I ain't got too much longer if she stay up in it. Before Oshun left my body, she looked at my spirit and she said, you doing good even though you don't think you're doing good. Keep going. And left. Miss Lawyer Boss Lady is confused because she like, I'm not understanding how the fuck she got so much power. I did an energy signature on her. What did Angie do? Angie is my... Miss Evangeline said Angie literally suppressed her energy pressure. You ain't gonna know that she got it unless she show you that she got it. And whatever she shows you, I guarantee you it's only a third of what she can actually do. And what I do is tell y'all it's a part 5. I'm so sorry.
Did you see that video of a ghost pregnant woman? It was on TikTok. Let me show you a still. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? The creator posted this video after she says that she thinks that she captured a pregnant ghost or woman holding a child on her Ring doorbell camera. She shows the footage and it literally like flashes up, like blinks. It's on screen for, you know, a couple of seconds. The way it's just standing there with its head to the side. No. I will tag the original creator and I very much recommend you watch her story time, because actually what's really funny is we find out that it's possibly not a suspected ghost. It's her husband. The original creator thinks it's her husband carrying her child out of the car. Why is he standing like that? Why does he look so scary standing like that? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's pretty funny though. Definitely go and watch the original creator's video. I'll tag her in the comments because it's very much your vibe if you like scary things.
The Smurl haunting is another story that was turned into a Conjuring movie, but the real story behind it is actually really chilling. In 1974, Jack and Janet Smurl decided to move into this house in Pennsylvania. They had a little family they intended to grow and they needed more space, more room for them to grow. But very quickly after moving in, they realized that something was very wrong with the house. They started hearing really strange sounds coming from the ceiling, just from all over the house. On top of that, they started smelling really bad smells, like something almost like death was in the house. Then one night, things started escalating when their family dog was picked up and thrown across the room. This startled the entire family. Obviously, their dog was just thrown across the room by an unseen entity. This is when they knew they needed to get help. The family had lived in this house for years. They asked multiple people to come and help them, but it didn't seem like anyone could. Things just continued to escalate, with Jack saying that he was SA'd in this house, and then Janet later came out and said that she was also SA'd. Both claimed that this was by an unseen entity. This is when the family decided to call Ed and Lorraine Warren, and as we know, they're very popular demonologists, and I have big problems with them, but besides that, they were called in to help. Ed and Lorraine decided that there were 4 spirits that lived in the house. There were 2 women and one of them was a teenager. There was also a man who was there that had passed away in the house. And then they also thought that there was a very powerful demon residing inside. The Warrens stepped into action, immediately called the priest to come and bless the house, but this didn't help. Altogether, they had to perform 3 exorcisms of the house to be able to remove the spirits and the demon entity. The Smurl family did eventually think that the demons had left the house. They were able to go on and lead a perfectly normal life. But this did gain attention in the media, and soon their house became a hotspot for people just driving by. But this too would eventually die down, and the family was able to live a very normal life with all of their children growing up and being able to just live. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that it's all just a hoax, or is there some truth behind it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and follow for more spooky things.
If you like scary stories from the Appalachian Mountains, I'm your guy. I grew up there and I experienced a lot of terrifying things. I've told these stories before, but I'm telling them again because I'm putting them in a playlist. That way you guys can find them more easily. So most of the things I experienced happened at my grandmother's house. Now I realize the house was very haunted at minimum. My bedroom was downstairs, her bedroom was upstairs. She was bedridden, she could not get up out of bed. At nighttime is when most things happen in Appalachia, and nighttime is when most things happened in her house. When I first moved in with her, I didn't realize that all this stuff was going on. I quickly learned that I needed to keep a lamp on in my room, so my lamp was on. I was in the basement by myself. This one night in particular, I always have trouble sleeping, and this night was no different. I had trouble sleeping. It was really late. I was laying in bed, could not fall asleep. I look over at my alarm clock that's on my nightstand. Most people have an alarm clock on their nightstand. I don't keep one there anymore because this alarm clock said 3 a.m. 3 a.m. is not a good time. It's known as the witching hour. When 3 a.m. hits, it's not a good time, and of course that's when I look at the clock. So I roll back over, close my eyes, and try to go back to sleep. As soon as I close my eyes, something hits the end of my bed right beside my feet really hard, like with a closed fist or with a big open palm. It goes bam, 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 3 times right beside my feet at 3 a.m. in the Appalachian Mountains. I shot straight up out of that bed so fast, I didn't see anything. There was nothing there. I didn't have any shadows in the room because I had a lamp going. I always sleep with a lamp, even though I was a 30-year-old man. I heard a lot of things. That was probably the closest to my body that something happened. It was maybe 2 inches away. It was right beside, and they hit that bed hard. Whatever it was, shot me up. I probably didn't sleep the rest of the night, and I still think about it every time I go to bed because my feet will never hang off of a mattress because there's no telling what's under it, especially in the Appalachian Mountains. If you want more stories like this, follow me. I have plenty.
This is called Amazon Delivery Driver. So this is from Brian, and he says, I thought I'd share my story with you. I've been a delivery driver for years, working with big companies like Parcel Force, Amazon, Hermes, and Domino's, working around Kent.
Oh.
This happened in November 2023, and I picked up a shift with Amazon Flex. It was only a 3.5-hour shift, just to earn extra money for Christmas.
Love.
I picked up my orders from the warehouse, only 28 deliveries. I thought to myself, I'll be finished earlier than I expected. I knew the area I'd be working in, Paddock Wood. I knew the area quite well, as I used to be a delivery driver for Domino's in this area. My start time was 5:30 p.m, so it was very dark out and windy this evening. As anyone who has been to Kent will know that they are mainly country roads.
Yeah.
As I'm in my car, I always carry plenty of water. So anyway, I had reached my first drop, no issues. Moved on to my second drop, all okay. Just about to go on to my third drop off, and the wind was picking up, and the chill from the air was bitter. I'd pulled over as I needed a wee. All my doors were locked, apart from my driver's side door. The road's pitch black, and as I'm going for a wee, I heard my back passenger side door open and shut. I stopped midstream and looked into my car. Nothing there. I carried on. Before I got back into my car, I shined my torch into the back, but there was nothing there. As I started to drive off, it was 7 minutes away until my next drop-off. So I lit up a fag, and the road was very narrow, and the only lights were my headlights, and in my rearview mirror, I couldn't see anything apart from when my brake lights were used. All of a sudden, there was a figure sat in the middle of the back seat, which made me jump out of my skin, and I nearly wrote my car off. I nearly drove it straight into a tree. I stopped the car, I checked the back seat, nothing. All evening, I felt as though someone was watching me.
Oh, no.
And I felt uneasy all night long. I've never had this feeling before or since. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, no, Brian.
The story left me with more questions than answers, and I think we all need to know. Obviously, we didn't be changing this person's name to Anne. Anne lived in this old house with her parents and her 2 brothers. Then one night, her dad was working late, and her mom and her brothers were in the living room hanging out. She got bored, so she decided to walk into her parents' room, and when she walked into her parents' room, something told her to stare at the cameras. Something told her to look at the screen, and in the screen, it shows her the outside of the house and the inside of the house. She saw it. This thing that looked like a lady in her dad's old car. It had no eyes and no mouth. All in its place were black holes. She automatically called her mom into the bedroom, and her mom saw the lady on the screen as well. So what she did was she told Anne and her 2 brothers to go sleep in Anne's room for the remainder of the night. About 2 hours later, they were all sleeping in her room. Literally every one of them. And she says that the next weirdest thing that happened was something caught on fire the next day, and her mom decided to take a picture of what was going on, and in the picture where the fire was taking place was the lady from the car there. And what happens next, we don't know. Anne never says anything else. So please, Anne, if you can please let us know what happened with the fire, what happened with the lady, were there more encounters, did you ever find out who it was or what that was? Please let us know.
Hey guys, your girl Jayla back with another scary story time. This is from another one of my supporters. Her name is Maya, and she is 15, I believe. Oop, y'all see that orb? Get your snacks, get your drinks, get your blankets, shut the lights off, and listen. Maya said that her and her friends love to go ghost hunting. Let's just say ghost hunting. She loves to go to like haunted places. She loves doing spirit box sessions. She loves watching scary stuff, like anything to do with the paranormal she really loves. So she decided that she wanted to go on the app Randonautica. I think that's what it's called. If you know what that app is, then you know. But so she was basically going on the Randonautica app, and she typed in that she wanted to go to like spooky or scary places that are like haunted, and it brought her to this cemetery. She wasn't specific on where the cemetery was like located or anything, but she said that it was her best friend, and her boyfriend that all decided they were gonna go to the cemetery together. So they get to the cemetery. Now, mind you, it's 11:30 p.m. It's pretty dark, and you're not really supposed to be at the cemetery at this time, but they decided they was gonna like, you know, sneak in, and they ended up getting inside of the cemetery. And so they had like a spirit box session. They were introducing themselves. They were, you know, trying to make the spirits comfortable enough to talk to them through the spirit box session. And so they're asking like little simple questions like, is anybody here? If so, like, what's your name? Like, you can talk through the spirit box session. They're basically explaining how the spirit box session works and explaining to them that, you know, this is a free chance to talk. So as they're talking, they keep hearing stuff like in the back of them. And mind you, the cemetery is big. And it's only them in the cemetery at this time because you're not supposed to be there at this time. But they have like little flashlights on their phone that they're using. They're not using actual flashlights. So they're trying to like flash it behind them to see if they like see anybody. But they don't see anybody. They just keep hearing like movement. But it sounds like whatever it is like creeping up on them. Asking questions, and it sounds like whatever is like behind them is like getting closer to them. That's when the spirit box session just went downhill after that. Maya asks the spirit box session, is that you behind us making that noise? And it says yes, which is freaking crazy if you ask me. After it says yes, she says, okay, do you feel safe with talking with us? And it says yes again. She asks it what's its name, and it doesn't give like a clear name. That's when like a whole bunch of other voices started like talking through the spirit box session at the same time. So then she asks it, how long have you been gone for? And it said 8 years. After it said 8 years, that's when she just felt this urge to like look at a certain headstone and look at the name on it. So she goes to the headstone, she looks at the name on it, and she asks the spirit box session like, is your name so and so? Says yes. And after that, that's when they heard like running like towards them, but it wasn't coming from the headstone that she was looking at. It was coming from somewhere else. But like as they're, you know, flashing their lights that don't go that much farther, nothing is like around them or whatever, but it shook them to the point where they were like, okay, it was nice speaking to you. And they were just like, let's go, because we don't want things to get too out of hand at a cemetery at 11:30 p.m. Like, said that she has a lot of more scary stories because, like I said, she loves to do with anything paranormal or haunted. I have my own scary story times. I also share my parents' scary story times. If you like anything to do with ghosts, if you like true crime, if you like just any story times in general, follow me because I try to post as much as possible.
This is probably the scariest case to come out of the Appalachian Mountains. Now, this one is personal to me because I actually worked on this case. Now, I had a friend who lived in North Carolina, and he was a paranormal investigator. He reaches out to me one day and is like, hey, so I got this weird case, and, I'm kind of stumped. Like, could you help me with it? Apparently, there was this Native American family who lived on the reservation, and they had a daughter who was like 16 or 17, and at the time, she was getting dropped off from a friend's house one night at her parents' home. Well, her friend drops her off, and she said when she got out of the car, she had to walk down this like bumpy, gravelly, muddy road. And she said as she's walking down this gravel road, and right next to her, is the woods, she sees this man standing on the side of the road. And she said he had this black hat on, a black cloak, and she said she couldn't really see his face at the time because it was turned. And she said as she walked a little closer to him, he turned his face, and she said he had no mouth, no nose, but these solid red eyes, and he was just staring at her. Well, she said, she walked as fast as she could to the house, and this man began like following her. So she runs inside her house, and she's like screaming, crying at this time. Her dad's like, what's going on? Like, why are you crying? And she said, there's this man out there in a hat, and like he was following me. So her dad runs out of the house and just starts looking for this guy. He doesn't find anyone. He doesn't see anything. And he's like, you sure there was a guy out there? And she's like, yeah, I seen him. Like, he was on the road, and he was like, followed me to the house. So a couple weeks pass, and they start noticing that their daughter is waking up at night from having these terrible dreams, that she is seeing this man in her room. And not only that, she is waking up with these scratches all over her body. in the next coming months, right, there was something banging on the windows, banging on the doors, right? They could hear scratching sounds coming from the roof all night long, except when the father would go and investigate and try to figure out what was going on, like he couldn't find anything. And then one night, the daughter is having like this terrible nightmare, and the mother in the other room, she could hear this going on. So she walks over to her bedroom, which the door is halfway open. She looks in, and she said she could see a man standing next to her bed with this hat and this cloak on. She goes in her room, she flips on the lights, and she said it was gone. And not only this thing was, attacking, this girl was attacking their home. It had left scratch marks on the truck, on the home. There were claw mark footprints all around the home. These are real pictures from some of the damage that it was causing and the scratch marks that it left on this girl. Now, I started looking into this case, and I started researching what we come to know today as the Hat Man. And as I got deeper into this case, I started to notice weird things were happening to me. Like, I lived up in Chicago at the time, and one night I'm asleep, and I just remember it was 3 a.m. I wake up to the sound of a scream, and I'd never heard anything like that before. So I immediately jump up. I think someone's in the house. Like, what is going on? I searched my entire home. There was no one there. The doors were locked. The windows were closed. So as I'm getting ready to go back to bed, I walk past the living room, and as I turn, sitting in a lazy boy recliner is what looks like a man in a cloak and a hat, just rocking. And I look again, he's gone. But I could see movement of the chair, and that's someone obviously had bumped it or had been sitting in it. And that like sent chills down my back. And I immediately like went into the bedroom, closed the door. And mysteriously, as all of this started, it just one day stopped. And to me, what I thought personally was this was a case of the Hat Man.
You can't make this stuff up. Might have known the story of real-life boogeyman.
Around 1:30 p.m. on the afternoon of May 18th, 2007, a 57-year-old woman named Yvonne de Hoorde arrived at a park in Rotterdam, which is a city in the Netherlands. She was there to meet up with her friend, and she had to cut through the park to get to his house. Yvonne went to her friend's house almost every day. And usually when she walked through the park during the week, there weren't that many people around. But on this day, it was really crowded because it was the Friday of a long weekend, and there was just a lot of families and visitors that were enjoying the spring weather, which meant the playground, the pathways, and the park's little cafe were all packed. But Yvonne didn't pay that much attention to the crowds because she was busy thinking about her friend. They'd known each other for years, and they had what she considered to be a very special connection that Yvonne didn't think she had with anybody else. Now, Yvonne knew that a lot of people might say her and her friend's relationship was sort of more strange than special. In fact, some people in her life actually openly disapproved of it. But for Yvonne, it seemed like the main reason for that was, Yvonne was generally pretty friendly and social and sort of an outgoing, normal person. But her friend was extremely reclusive and never left his house. And so it just seemed like an odd pairing. Her friend was originally from Germany, but even though he'd lived in the Netherlands now for years, he'd never learned the language. So he really couldn't communicate with anybody, including Yvonne, at least not in her native tongue. But for Yvonne, if anything, the fact that people didn't necessarily think this was a good idea for them to be friends just made her feel more protective of her friend. And also, she was especially sympathetic to the fact that her friend had actually been abandoned by his mother as a child. And so in a way, she sort of felt like she was stepping in as sort of a maternal figure in her friend's life. And so Yvonne, she rounded a corner on the park's path, and up ahead, there was her friend's house. And she could actually see her friend through one of the windows. And he did not look particularly happy. He looked sort of dejected. And so as she approached, she made a big scene to be very smiley and happy, and she's waving to her friend. And sure enough, her friend at some point turned and looked out the window and saw Yvonne approaching, and he broke into a big smile and he waved back. It's like even though they didn't speak the same language, there clearly was a connection there. And Yvonne was just filled with happiness, so glad that she was here to see him. And so Yvonne, she made her way over to her friend, and that day really was spent the same way they spent all their other days together, which again, they don't speak the same language. So it was just sort of a lot of, body language and gestures and sort of just sitting together and just sort of enjoying each other's company. There wasn't really any direct communication happening, but This was a unique relationship, and for Yvonne, whatever it was enough for her. And she felt like for her friend, it was reciprocated. He appreciated their time together, and that was enough. But even though Yvonne in particular really looked forward to these visits and was having a really nice time on this particular day, she couldn't stay forever. She had a family and other things she needed to get done. So at around 2:30 p.m., after having spent about an hour with her friend, she said goodbye to him, and then she turned and left, knowing that the two of them would see each other again soon. And so Yvonne, after turning and leaving her friend's house, she only got a few steps down the path she came in on when two things happened at once. The first thing was she noticed there was a group of kids in the park who were throwing rocks, and she knew instinctively, like, the kids should not be throwing rocks. So that sort of registered. She wasn't doing anything about it, but she was just aware that there are children throwing rocks nearby. And then the second thing she noticed is she heard splashing coming from behind her. She didn't think it was coming from the kids throwing rocks. She's thinking it didn't rain anytime recently, so there's no reason that there'd be splashing sounds around her. There's no puddles or anything. The only splashing that made sense was it was coming from the stream that was sort of off limits in the park. Nobody had access to it. There was no reason to get down there to that stream, but it sounded very much like that was the splashing that she was hearing. And so Yvonne, she's just consciously aware of these things happening. This was not something that was alarming. She's just aware. And so she found herself turning around to see in particular what that splashing sound was. And as she turned around, something huge smashed into her, pinned her to the ground. All she could hear was screaming throughout the park. And the last thought she had before she blacked out was, "Oh my God, I'm about to die." Not far away, a man named Arvid Hendricks, who had also come to the same park with his wife and his two kids, heard the screams echoing through the park. He was right outside the cafe that Yvonne had been walking towards, and he had just been about to go inside when all this commotion had started. So this particular cafe sat on a path that cut through the park itself. It was a small place, almost like a glorified snack bar, and it had a big pavilion right in front of it with outdoor seating that looked out over the park. And from Arvid's perspective, as he was standing on that pavilion near the cafe entrance, he could hear these people screaming and actually started to see them running in his direction. But Arvid had no idea what they were screaming about or what they were running from. It just seemed like all of a sudden everybody's panicking and coming this way. And so instinctively, Arvid's thinking, okay, there's something threatening going on, and he needs to make sure his family is safe before he even knows what the threat is. So he grabbed his kids and his wife, and he ran into the restaurant along with everybody else. And remember, this restaurant, this cafe, was not huge. Inside, it sort of felt like a dining hall with large communal tables. And so with all these people rushing inside, this place quickly became chaotic. And then after all these people came inside, a few of the people went forward and did their best to barricade the front doors, even though they were glass and would be pretty easy to break through. They did what they could to sort of block them off. After this, despite there still being this really intense energy sort of buzzing around the room, things actually kind of calmed down. You know, Arvid and probably many other people in this cafe did not know what was going on. They had just sort of reacted instinctively and went in here, assuming there has to be some real threat out there. Let's take shelter. And so there's this weird lull period where everyone's kind of looking around, Arvid included, trying to figure out, is there really a big threat out there, or are we overreacting here? And as they're all sitting there kind of wondering what's going on, the front doors, the glass doors, suddenly shatter. And once again, the whole group is thrust into absolute chaos once again, as all the parents are grabbing their kids, and even though they still don't really know what's going on, they're trying to rush towards those shattered doors to get out of this place, which now feels like it is dangerous, in some ways worse than outside. And so it's this huge bottleneck as the door, as everyone's screaming, there's just madness happening. And Arvid, he could tell there was no way he could get through this cluster of people desperately trying to get out. And so he just grabbed his wife and his kids, and they went under one of the tables and they hid. And for the next couple of minutes, everything all around Arvid and his family continued to be absolutely chaotic and madness. But then eventually, everything just went quiet as everybody else made their way out of the cafe. And it was just Arvid and his family sitting there wondering what the heck is going on. And for a moment, Arvid felt like, okay, I'm safe. I don't know what's going on, but me and my family, we are safe. However, before he instructed his kids and his wife to come out of their hiding spot, he heard the sound of more glass shattering, and then he heard these loud stomping sounds as something huge was making its way through those front doors into the cafe. And suddenly, it hit Arvid when he looked out and saw what it was. Why everybody was running. And he also realized that he and his family were now trapped. It would turn out all the people in Yvonne's life who frowned on her special friendship had been right to do so. Because although Yvonne loved her daily routine with her friend did not actually feel the same way. Every day when Yvonne went to visit, she would sit with her friend and keep him company. And Yvonne's friend would smile back at her. This was sort of the rapport they had developed, at least in Yvonne's mind. The smiling back and forth suggested they were friends. What Yvonne didn't realize is that them smiling back and forth was actually something her friend hated. And on that particular Friday afternoon, her friend was already in a very bad mood. The park that surrounded his house was so crowded and so loud, and those kids who Yvonne saw throwing rocks when she left had been doing it earlier. They were throwing rocks that whole time that she was visiting with her friend, and some of those rocks were hitting her friend's house. And it was making him so agitated and mad. And then the whole time through this interaction, Yvonne is smiling over and over at her friend, thinking this is so great. And it just totally sent her friend over the edge. And so when Yvonne finally left and walked away, the friend, should have felt relieved because now, one of the things that was really agitating him was gone. Yvonne, she was gone. But the friend knew she wasn't really leaving for good. She would just come back tomorrow, like she always did, with that same enraging smile on top of all the other things that were so annoying. And the friend just could not take it any longer. So he snapped. He stormed out of his house, splashing through that off-limit stream in the park to get to Yvonne as she walked away. And just before he reached her, she turned around and saw him. This time, he smiled at Yvonne before she could smile at him. And for once, she didn't smile back. Instead, she looked terrified. And this was because Yvonne's friend was a 400-pound silverback gorilla named Boquito. And the park he lived in was a zoo. To silverback gorillas, smiling is not a sign of friendship. It's a sign of aggression and hostility. So it's very likely that from Boquito's point of view, almost every day for years, Yvonne had been coming to his enclosure, in essence, to threaten him. At least that's very likely how he interpreted it. And he had been basically threatening her back whenever he smiled by showing his teeth. And he thought maybe that would get her to go away, but it never worked. She always came back and just continued to threaten him. And so eventually, like the story goes, it became too much. Luckily though, Boquito didn't harm really anybody except for Yvonne. He bit her over 100 times and broke multiple bones, but Yvonne did survive. But no other guests were harmed, including Arvid and his family. They were trapped in that cafe with Boquito, who after attacking Yvonne had charged in there and was walking around, but Boquito never attacked. And so at a certain point, Arvid and his family were able to run to safety. After she recovered, Yvonne would tell the media that Boquito was still her darling. That's what she called him. And in fact, she would go back to the zoo to see Boquito after that. But this time, she didn't smile.
Have you guys ever been in a relationship where you guys wake up and you're like, let's just try and have a good day today. Let's just try our best to make it a good day. I hope that you haven't, because that sucks. That's so toxic. But if you have, that's the kind of relationship we're talking about today. Courtney Clenny, who goes by Courtney Taylor online, was an fans and Instagram model. And even as a little girl, Courtney knew that in front of the camera is where she wanted to be. She was always interested in the entertainment industry as a whole, shows, movies, music, videos, commercials, all of it. But it was really in 2017 that she kind of blew up on social media. She was living in Austin, Texas with her boyfriend. Then they moved to LA. Courtney's Instagram blew up to have 2 million followers while in LA, and she fully dove into that world. Meeting other people, meeting other influencers, she really put herself out there. And then the couple ends up moving to Miami. By this point, Courtney had decided to make an account under the name Courtney Taylor. And her bio, or her description of her profile, said, quote, "I just moved to Miami, so I need positive vibes. Scary big change for a little Texas girl." So in Miami, she rents a beautiful apartment under her name for her and her boyfriend to live in. She's more than blown up on by this point, by the way, not only from her making videos, but from featuring her boyfriend in her content as well. And she's making millions in the few years that she was doing this. The apartment they moved into in Miami is just about as luxurious as you can get. They were paying $10,000 a month in rent, but Courtney could afford it, so it was really no stress. I have no idea if the couple was splitting rent, if he was pitching it at all, or if she was the only one paying for the rent. It was only her name on the lease, but both of them were living in the apartment. And they got the apartment in that building in the first place to move into together. So who's the boyfriend? Christian Obunselli. He was originally from Texas, as was Courtney, and from my understanding, by the time that they moved to Miami, they had already been dating for a couple of years. Christian was once a student, also a very talented athlete. He graduated from Texas Tech University and later on worked in tech, playing a big role in founding a tech company. He's been described by friends and family members as a very kind and caring individual and also a star football athlete. So you have this couple who's frequently posting pictures and videos online, and their relationship seems beautiful. They have good friends, an awesome social life. They go to events. They're living in this beautiful apartment in Miami with the best views. They're rich. They're living lavish. They're in love. What more can you ask for? Well, as we always say it with me, you can't or shouldn't believe everything that you see on social media, because their relationship in reality off camera was toxic. They had an extremely combative relationship. Friends, family, and neighbors constantly heard them arguing. Some would say that Courtney was a crazy, toxic girlfriend. Actually, Courtney herself called herself a crazy, toxic girlfriend. Others would say that Christian was the problem for being controlling and jealous. But whatever the case was, the point is that their relationship was far off from healthy. To give you an idea, the police being called to their apartment was not unusual. Authorities would be called when their arguments escalated and got physical, and officers were going out to their apartment on average twice a month. At least. It wasn't good, but shortly before Christian's 27th birthday, one of their arguments would escalate to the point of no return, and the police would be called out to their apartment for one final time. On April 3rd of 2022, Courtney Clenny called 911 from her high-rise luxury apartment. Courtney is talking to the operator while you can hear Christian in the background saying, "I'm going to I can't feel my arms. I can't feel my arms." And while she's attempting, I guess, to talk to the operator, she's also talking to Christian saying, "I'm so sorry, baby, I'm so sorry." Before she yells into the phone, "Please, God, please come and save my boyfriend." Christian Obumselli was transported to the hospital, but his injuries, the wound that he had to his chest, it was fatal. The wound was 3 inches deep into his chest, directly above a tattoo that he had on his chest that said the name Courtney. He did not make it, and he passed away at only 27 years old. Courtney was taken into the station for questioning, and in that interview, she did not know yet that Christian hadn't made it. Detectives told her that he was still in the hospital being monitored. She asked them if he would need to have surgery, and they kind of avoided giving her a direct answer, but it wasn't until about 3 hours later, after Courtney had left the room to change out of her clothes that were absolutely covered in red, by the way, she came back to the room, and detectives told her, "We have to inform you that Christian did not make it. The doctors did what they could." She didn't take the news well. She immediately gasped. She put her hands up to her neck, taking the biggest breaths while raising her hand to her mouth, clutching her chest. She then asked the detectives, "Can I please have a hug? Am I allowed to do that in here?" That day, her parents got the first flight to Miami that they could to be there to support her, and she was released. However, months later, in August of 2022, Courtney Clenny was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. After her arrest, a flood of people who knew not only Courtney but also Christian would come out and talk about their relationship. Allegedly, they had broken up 1 month prior. But the one thing that every single statement seemed to have in common was that the relationship was toxic and destructive. However, it felt like friends and family members either leaned one way or another, towards Courtney being the primary aggressor 9 times out of 10, or towards Christian. And if you believed Courtney, you would say that what she did to Christian was in self-defense. However, I will let you decide that. According to Courtney Clenny, this is what happened prior to that 911 call. This is what she told authorities when they arrived at the scene. Courtney said that she had acted in self-defense during a physical altercation with Christian. She claimed that during their argument, Christian had gotten physically aggressive with her, allegedly throwing her to the ground and pushing her, and that she got scared of what he could be capable of doing to her. To protect herself, she grabbed it and she threw it at him from several feet away. During the confrontation, which resulted in that fatal wound to his chest, she said that they had broken up a month prior and Christian wouldn't leave her alone no matter what she said or did. She said he had been sleeping in different common areas of their apartment building because she wasn't letting him come into the actual apartment, and she told them that she had reported this to the staff members at the apartment building before. Apparently also, the police had been out to their apartment just days before because of a different argument, but her story was that what she did was in self-defense. She was defending herself from Christian, and that in the heat of the moment, fearing for her safety, she threw the knife. But the actual evidence from the crime scene, as well as Christian's injury, very much made this self-defense act questionable, and her behavior following Christian's passing did not help her case much. Just days after, Courtney was seen in a hotel lobby ordering beverages with her dad, looking a little bit too relaxed in a lot of people's opinions. When she was there, a woman saw her, recognized her, and looked at her and said, "You your boyfriend, so yeah, you should leave." She ended up leaving with her dad, but still, she seemingly did not realize the severity of the loss that her actions caused, and she didn't really seem to care about the public scrutiny that she was facing. Also, after the incident, but before her arrest, Courtney ended up moving back to Texas. Probably because she was trying to go out in Miami and acting very carefree and was probably judged for it, so she ended up moving back to Austin, where she bought $1 million home. So still, once again, the way that she was moving, the way that she was acting, it wasn't sitting right with a lot of people, because whether it was an accident or not, her actions cost a human being his life, a human being that she was claiming to be in love with also, yet she was living her life as normal, spending millions, going out, chilling. It definitely felt unsettling to see how normal things stayed for her. Meanwhile, Christian's family members were coping with their entire worlds being flipped upside down. But sooner than later, the walls would be closing in on Courtney. So let's talk about the events of April 3rd, 2022 in more detail, the text, the videos, all the things that came out after the fact, and everything that ultimately led to her arrest. On April 3rd, Christian Obumseli left Courtney's apartment at 1:15 p.m. He returned at 4:33 p.m. with sandwiches for both him and Courtney. Everything that day seemed to be normal so far. When Christian was out getting sandwiches for the both of them, Courtney had realized that he had stopped sharing his location with her, and she was not happy about that. He came back at 4:33 p.m. At 4:43 p.m., so 10 minutes later, Courtney called her mother, spoke to her for 6 minutes, and then called her again at 4:49, spoke to her for 7 minutes. At 4:57 p.m., she made that 911 call to report that Christian was injured and he needed help. What investigators found particularly telling about this was that 11 minutes before Courtney made that 911 call, a neighbor had already called 911 to report disturbance at their apartment, meaning that their argument was already happening, was already going on during the time in which Courtney called her mom. During the phone call with her mother, Deborah Clenny later told police that she heard her daughter yelling at Christian to leave and yelling at him, accusing him of lying about something. So it makes you wonder how much the mother knew. And then investigators find a text message on Courtney's phone from her mother 28 minutes after the 911 call that mentioned self-defense and advised her not to say anything to investigators without an attorney. The medical evidence also wasn't quite adding up. Courtney Clenny told police that she threw the Christian from about 10 feet away during their argument. But the medical examiner found that Christian from a forceful downward thrust that went 3 inches deep into his chest, piercing a major artery. The medical examiner concluded that that kind of injury simply could not have happened if Courtney would have been 10 feet away like she was claiming to be. It had to happen from very close up, and it had to have been intentional, not accidental. And also, it was ruled that Courtney had no injuries on her that day that would have been consistent with a struggle, if Christian would have been the person that came onto her first instead of the other way around. And as investigators dug deeper, they just kept finding more and more evidence that made Courtney seem like the primary aggressor in the relationship, not Christian. And also, I'm not saying at all that Christian never did anything to her. I'm sure that he did based on how bad their arguments got, but to me it definitely seems like Courtney was the one screaming and yelling and pushing for things to get physical. And based on text messages found, it sounded like Courtney using a sharp weapon on Christian didn't only happen one time. In October of 2021, text messages showed Christian claiming that Courtney had injured him with a sharp weapon so badly in the leg that he could not walk. A different time, he texted her, quote, "What if next time it is in my face or my heart, and then there is no next time," end quote. He also described being sliced in the face with a sharp object, getting slapped on his stitches so many times, preventing them from healing, being cheated on, being kicked out, being called racial slurs on more than one occasion, all by Courtney. Photos obtained by investigators showed deep wounds to Christian's cheek and chin from late January that were severe enough that he did require to go to the hospital and get stitches. Unbeknownst to Courtney, Christian also had been secretly recording their arguments for weeks and even months leading up to his passing. And in many of the videos, Christian can be seen trying to hold Courtney back and restrain her from hitting him by grabbing her arms and her hands, but never hitting her back. In one of them, Courtney is heard yelling at him saying, "Shut up and let me slap you." So many of their friends also came forward to say that it was always Courtney hurting Christian, not only emotionally, but also physically, and multiple friends said that Christian would be way too quick to forgive Courtney for her actions. A lot of them also said that their arguments usually stemmed from Christian either looking at another girl, talking to another girl, like Not in a romantic way, just casually. And Courtney getting mad at him, even though Courtney had cheated on Christian. Christian had never been unfaithful to her, from my understanding, from my knowledge. And it was also stated that she would put in a lot of effort to try and isolate him, not only from his friends, but also his family. On top of that, Courtney also has a history of that kind of behavior towards other men. 4 months after Krishna Wumseli passed away on August 10th of 2022, Courtney Clenny was arrested in Hawaii. She was charged with second-degree murder with a weapon. To this day, she maintains her innocence, saying that she did what she did in self-defense. Her trial is scheduled for April of 2026. It's just so horrible, everything about it, but also, I don't know, I feel like toxic relationships are way more common than they should be. And I feel like people think that it won't get to this point, but it can. And that is why it's important for you to leave a relationship if something doesn't feel right, if you're not happy, if they're not happy, just leave. I know I have a lot of young girls that listen to my videos, so if you ever feel like you're not happy in a relationship, if you feel like it's not healthy, not only for you, but also for the other person involved, then just leave. A relationship is supposed to make you a better person. It's supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to make your partner happy. It's not supposed to be anything like this. It's horrible. But that is all I have for this video. I'm very intrigued to see what happens in her trial, so I guess I'll keep you guys posted. Thank you for spending time with me today. Hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.
This is the Old Park Hotel in Ballinger, Texas, and it is said to be extremely haunted. My husband and I were driving from Colorado down to San Antonio, Texas, and we passed by this cute little town called Ballinger, Texas. And me, being a lover of all things spooky, scary, horror, I looked up spooky places near me, and I came across this hotel called the Old Park Hotel. I've done my research, and it is said to be one of the most haunted hotels in all of Texas. It was built in the late 1800s, and it was used as a courthouse, a schoolhouse, a funeral parlor, and even a brothel. Throughout the years, people would go and visit, take pictures and stuff like that, and creepy things started to come out in those pictures and videos, like scratches, voices, shadow figures, just a lot of paranormal evidence. There have been many paranormal investigators that have come to investigate this place, and they all have come out with some sort of paranormal activity. This is me in front of the hotel. When we showed up, it was unfortunately closed. I rang the doorbell and someone answered, and they said they only open on the weekends, and I'm very interested in going back. I did look through the window and I captured this photo. The inside looks super historic, and it honestly looks very creepy. I actually went across the street at this very old looking building, and it used to be the jail of this little town many years ago. I am dying to go back. I'd love to go visit. I'd love to go investigate just to see what the vibes are. Have you heard of this Old Park Hotel located in Ballinger, Texas? Honestly, the whole town gives historic, spooky vibes, and I cannot wait to go back.
My sister was in the bathroom, so who the hell was talking to me in the bedroom? Story time. So we live in an apartment. It's a 2-bed apartment with our parents. Our parents have one room. We share the other room, which is my sister and South. So on this particular night, I came back after work and I didn't want to wake my sister up. I noticed that she was laid in bed. So I just left the door slightly open so the lights could, go in the bedroom so I can grab my towel, go get a quick shower and then go to bed. I was really tired and I just wanted to get a shower. I grabbed my towel and I go to the bathroom and I noticed that someone was in there. So I thought maybe it might be my mum or dad in the bathroom. So I decided to just go stand at our bedroom doorway to just wait for whoever is in there to come out. I'm scrolling through my phone. Then I hear this strange voice, which sounded a little bit familiar to that of my sister, saying that you need to go to bed because it's late and you've got school tomorrow. But I for once stood there and thought, no, something is not right about the voice, but I didn't pay mind to it because I was more interested in what I was scrolling on my phone. So I carried on scrolling through. Then she shouted the second time round, demanding I need to get in bed now. So I thought, what is going on? Then the bathroom door opened and I see my sister walking out of there. So I immediately knew what was going on. So I flicked the light switch on. Tell me why there was no one in our bedroom. Myself and sister ran to our parents' bedroom. We told them what had happened. They came out, checked in our bedroom, but nothing was there.
This is one of the most disturbing experiments in history.
The experiment was done in the 1960s. It was performed on dogs, and it was unethical and cruel. It also gave us a lot of insights into a dark aspect of human psychology and a sociological phenomenon to control and manipulate called learned helplessness. So let's talk about it. Reminder, I tell a lot of dark stories on this channel, and this one. So follow along if you'd like to hear more. I couldn't find a red marker. So here's how the experiment worked. Dogs were placed in a cage with 2 compartments divided by a low wall. One side of the wall was electrified and the other wasn't. In phase 1, some of the dogs were restrained and exposed to mild electrical shocks so they could not escape. And no matter what they did, barking, pulling, struggling, they couldn't stop the shocks. Which was teaching them that no matter what they did and how much they struggled, there was nothing they could do to stop their torment. Then came phase 2 of the experiment. The dogs were then placed in the cage where they were able to escape from the electrical shock. All they had to do was jump over the little wall. But the shocking and heartbreaking part of this experiment was this. The dogs didn't even try to escape the shocks. They just laid there crying, acting like escape wasn't even an option. Learned helplessness shows us the power of the mind to adapt to trauma, even in ways that hurt us. And it's not about weakness, it's survival. And like I said before, it's a tactic that's often used by people in order to make people feel powerless and control and manipulate. If we were to apply the idea of learned helplessness to the present day, in moments when we feel powerless, it's easy to feel like we as individuals can't do anything to change the outcome. Just like these dogs who were taught that escape was impossible. But here's the thing. Learned helplessness can be unlearned, and we are not powerless. The dogs in the experiment were alone, but we're not. I know it's easy to feel like the world is out of control, but despair is the real enemy here. Remember that history shows us that change can happen if we refuse to give in to despair. We need to be the authors of our own stories, and no one and no system should be able to change that.
This video has already gone viral, and at first glance, it looks completely normal. A young woman from the US set up her phone to film herself practicing a new dance. Nothing staged, nothing creepy. She waited until she was home alone, placed the camera, turned on the music, and started recording. For her, the video was ordinary. She watched it back once, saw nothing strange, and uploaded it. But minutes later, the comments started flooding in. People were all pointing out the same thing. Something in the mirror behind her that shouldn't be there. At first she thought it was a joke, then she rewatched the clip, frame by frame. That's when she froze. In the reflection for a brief moment, a hand appears, not hers. Not matching her movements, just a hand slowly entering the frame from behind. There was no one else in the house, no explanation, no sound. The hand doesn't wave, doesn't rush, it simply shows itself, then disappears. Since then, viewers have argued nonstop. A glitch, a reflection trick, or something far worse. Watch the video carefully until the very end, and tell me, what do you think appeared in that mirror?
30 p.m. on the afternoon of May 18th, 2007, a 57-year-old woman named Yvonne de Hoorde arrived at a park in Rotterdam, which is a city in the Netherlands. She was there to meet up with her friend, and she had to cut through the park to get to his house. Yvonne went to her friend's house almost every day, and usually when she walked through the park during the week, there weren't that many people around. But on this day, it was really crowded, because it was the Friday of a long weekend, and there was just a lot of families and visitors that were enjoying the spring weather, which meant the playground, the pathways, and the park's little cafe were all packed. But Yvonne didn't pay that much attention to the crowds because she was busy thinking about her friend. They'd known each other for years, and they had what she considered to be a very special connection that Yvonne didn't think she had with anybody else. Now, Yvonne knew that a lot of people might say her and her friend's relationship was sort of more strange than special. In fact, some people in her life actually openly disapproved of it. But for Yvonne, it seemed like the main reason for that was, Yvonne was generally pretty friendly and social and sort of an outgoing, normal person, but her friend was extremely reclusive and never left his house, and so it just seemed like an odd pairing. Her friend was originally from Germany, but even though he'd lived in the Netherlands now for years, he'd never learned the language. So he really couldn't communicate with anybody, including Yvonne, at least not in her native tongue. But for Yvonne, if anything, the fact that people didn't necessarily think this was a good idea for them to be friends just made her feel more protective of her friend. And also, she was especially sympathetic to the fact that her friend had actually been abandoned by his mother as a child. And so in a way, she sort of felt like she was stepping in as sort of a maternal figure in her friend's life. And so Yvonne, she rounded a corner on the park's path, and up ahead, there was her friend's house. And she could actually see her friend through one of the windows. And he did not look particularly happy. He looked sort of dejected. And so as she approached, she made a big scene to be very smiley and happy, and she's waving to her friend. And sure enough, her friend at some point turned and looked out the window and saw Yvonne approaching, and he broke into a big smile and he waved back. It's like even though they didn't speak the same language, there clearly was a connection there. And Yvonne was just filled with happiness, so glad that she was here to see him. And so Yvonne, she made her way over to her friend, and that day really was spent the same way they spent all their other days together, which again, they don't speak the same language. So it was just sort of a lot of, body language and gestures and sort of just sitting together and just sort of enjoying each other's company. There wasn't really any direct communication happening, but this was a unique relationship. And for Yvonne, whatever it was enough for her. And she felt like for her friend, it was reciprocated. He appreciated their time together, and that was enough. But even though Yvonne in particular really looked forward to these visits and was having a really nice time on this particular day, she couldn't stay forever. She had a family and other things she needed to get done. So at around 2:30 p.m., after having spent about an hour with her friend, she said goodbye to him, and then she turned and left, knowing that the two of them would see each other again soon. And so Yvonne, after turning and leaving her friend's house, she only got a few steps down the path she came in on when two things happened at once. The first thing was she noticed there was a group of kids in the park who were throwing rocks, and she knew instinctively, like, the kids should not be throwing rocks. So that sort of registered. She wasn't doing anything about it, but she was just aware that there are children throwing rocks nearby. And then the second thing she noticed is she heard splashing coming from behind her. She didn't think it was coming from the kids throwing rocks. She's thinking it didn't rain anytime recently, so there's no reason that there'd be splashing sounds around her. There's no puddles or anything. The only splashing that made sense was it was coming from this stream that was sort of off limits in the park. Nobody had access to it. There was no reason to get down there to that stream, but it sounded very much like that was the splashing that she was hearing. And so Yvonne, she's just consciously aware of these things happening. This was not something that was alarming. She's just aware. And so she found herself turning around to see in particular what that splashing sound was. And as she turned around, something huge smashed into her, pinned her to the ground. All she could hear was screaming throughout the park. And the last thought she had before she blacked out was, "Oh my God, I'm about to die." Not far away, a man named Arvid Hendricks, who had also come to the same park with his wife and his two kids, heard the screams echoing through the park. He was right outside the cafe that Yvonne had been walking towards, and he had just been about to go inside when all this commotion had started. So this particular cafe sat on a path that cut through the park itself. It was a small place, almost like a glorified snack bar, and it had a big pavilion right in front of it with outdoor seating that looked out over the park. And from Arvid's perspective, as he was standing on that pavilion near the cafe entrance, he could hear these people screaming and actually started to see them running in his direction. But Arvid had no idea what they were screaming about or what they were running from. It just seemed like all of a sudden everybody's panicking and coming this way. And so instinctively, Arvid's thinking, okay, there's something threatening going on, and he needs to make sure his family is safe before he even knows what the threat is. So he grabbed his kids and his wife, and he ran into the restaurant along with everybody else. And remember, this restaurant, this cafe, was not huge. Inside, it sort of felt like a dining hall with large communal tables. And so with all these people rushing inside, this place quickly became chaotic. And then after all these people came inside, a few of the people went forward and did their best to barricade the front doors. Even though they were glass and would be pretty easy to break through, they did what they could to sort of block them off. After this, despite there still being this really intense energy sort of buzzing around the room, things actually kind of calmed down. Arvid and probably many other people in this cafe did not know what was going on. They just sort of reacted instinctively and went in here, assuming there has to be some real threat out there. Let's take shelter. And so there's this weird lull period where everyone's kind of looking around, Arvid included, trying to figure out, is there really a big threat out there, or are we overreacting here? And as they're all sitting there kind of wondering what's going on, the front doors, the glass doors, suddenly shatter. And once again, the whole group is thrust into absolute chaos once again, as all the parents are grabbing their kids, and even though they still don't really know what's going on, they're trying to rush towards those shattered doors to get out of this place, which now feels like it is dangerous, in some ways worse than outside. And so it's this huge bottleneck as the door, as everyone's screaming, there's just madness happening. And Arvid, he could tell there was no way he could get through this cluster of people desperately trying to get out. And so he just grabbed his wife and his kids, and they went under one of the tables and they hid. And for the next couple of minutes, everything all around Arvid and his family continued to be absolutely chaotic and madness. But then eventually, everything just went quiet as everybody else made their way out of the cafe. And it was just Arvid and his family sitting there wondering what the heck is going on. And for a moment, Arvid felt like, okay, I'm safe. I don't know what's going on, but me and my family, we are safe. However, before he instructed his kids and his wife to come out of their hiding spot, he heard the sound of more glass shattering, and then he heard these loud stomping sounds as something huge was making its way through those front doors into the cafe. And suddenly, it hit Arvid when he looked out and saw what it was, why everybody was running. And he also realized that he and his family were now trapped. It would turn out all the people in Yvonne's life who frowned on her special friendship had been right to do so. Because although Yvonne loved her daily routine with her friend did not actually feel the same way. Every day when Yvonne went to visit, she would sit with her friend and keep him company. And Yvonne's friend would smile back at her. This was sort of the rapport they had developed, at least in Yvonne's mind. The smiling back and forth suggested they were friends. What Yvonne didn't realize is that them smiling back and forth was actually something her friend hated. And on that particular Friday afternoon, her friend was already in a very bad mood. The park that surrounded his house was so crowded and so loud, and those kids who Yvonne saw throwing rocks when she left had been doing it earlier. They were throwing rocks that whole time that she was visiting with her friend, and some of those rocks were hitting her friend's house, and it was making him so agitated and mad. And then the whole time through this interaction, Yvonne is smiling over and over at her friend, thinking this is so great, and it just totally sent her friend over the edge. And so when Yvonne finally left and walked away, the friend, should have felt relieved because now, one of the things that was really agitating him was gone. Yvonne, she was gone. But the friend knew she wasn't really leaving for good. She would just come back tomorrow, like she always did, with that same enraging smile on top of all the other things that were so annoying. And the friend just could not take it any longer. So he snapped. He stormed out of his house, splashing through that off-limits stream in the park to get to Yvonne as she walked away. And just before he reached her, she turned around and saw him. This time, he smiled at Yvonne before she could smile at him. And for once, she didn't smile back. Instead, she looked terrified. And this was because Yvonne's friend was a 400-pound silverback gorilla named Boquito. And the park he lived in was a zoo. To silverback gorillas, smiling is not a sign of friendship. It's a sign of aggression and hostility. So it's very likely that from Boquito's point of view, almost every day for years, Yvonne had been coming to his enclosure, in essence, to threaten him. At least that's very likely how he interpreted it. And he had been basically threatening her back whenever he smiled by showing his teeth. And he thought maybe that would get her to go away, but it never worked. She always came back and just continued to threaten him. And so eventually, like the story goes, it became too much. Luckily though, Boquito didn't harm really anybody except for Yvonne. He bit her over 100 times and broke multiple bones, but Yvonne did survive. But no other guests were harmed, including Arvid and his family. They were trapped in that cafe with Boquito, who after attacking Yvonne had charged in there and was walking around, but Boquito never attacked. And so at a certain point, Arvid and his family were able to run to safety. After she recovered, Yvonne would tell the media that Boquito was still her darling. That's what she called him. And in fact, she would go back to the zoo to see Boquito after.
This terrifying surveillance video completely blew up the internet. In it, we see a young woman in total panic, running from someone and desperately hiding inside a dumpster. In the next moments, it becomes clear that she is being chased by two unknown men. They run straight past the dumpster, not even realizing that the woman is hiding inside. Then we see a white van driving by that suddenly stops right next to the dumpster for no obvious reason. At that exact moment, the two men immediately approach the driver and start asking him if he has seen a woman in a red shirt running by. Without hesitating, the driver points toward the opposite street and tells them that he saw the woman run in that direction. After the men walk far enough away, the driver quickly opens the dumpster and helps the woman climb out, telling her to get into his vehicle as fast as possible before the two men come back. The woman struggles to get out of the dumpster and heads toward the van. At that moment, the driver notices that the two men are already running back in their direction. The man quickly jumps into the driver's seat and floors it, while the two strangers try to open the door. In the end, the van picks up speed and they manage to get away safely.
This guy murders his childhood best friend and claims that he did it all while sleepwalking. So it's a random Saturday morning in Florida, and 24-year-old Randy Herman's eyes snap wide open, and he immediately knows something is horrifically wrong because he is absolutely covered in blood. And not just a little bit, I mean his hands are sticky, his arms, his chest, everything is completely drenched in it. And as his brain is trying to make sense of what he's seeing, his eyes suddenly drift down to the floor, and there's a body face down right at his feet. And Randy's whole body just goes cold. But then as he's looking at this body even more, he's seeing these like super deep gashes carved into her palms and fingers. And Randy is just so confused. He's practically frozen in place, trying so hard to breathe and understand what is happening. And so that's when he musters up the courage to lean down and force himself to turn her head and see who this is. Like, is this an intruder? But at first, he can't even tell who it is because her features are completely unrecognizable from all of the cuts. But then after getting a better look, Randy's stomach drops because he knows who this is. This is Brooke Preston, not some stranger, not some random person who broke into his house. This is his friend since they were literally kids. The girl who used to ride bikes with him around the neighborhood, who knew every single embarrassing story from his childhood. I mean, what is going on here? Who did this to her? His brain is just trying to grasp onto anything, any memory of what could have happened. But all he remembers is texting Brooke earlier that day so she can come over and pick up a t-shirt that he really wanted to give her before she moved to Buffalo. And he remembers telling her that he might be asleep when she arrives, so just wake him up. But that's it. And to make things even worse, Randy realizes that he's holding on to something. He hadn't even noticed it because his brain was drowning in shock. But now he looks down at his right hand and sees his hunting knife gripped in his fist with the blade completely covered in red. And Randy is standing there realizing, oh my god, I think I did this. But that's when this incredibly sharp pain just hits him, like this burning, stinging sensation running across his chest and down his arm. And Randy looks down on himself, and that's when he sees these long, jagged scratch marks on his skin. It sort of looked like him and Brooke got into this violent, desperate fight, like she was clawing at him, fighting for her life, trying to get away from him. But he doesn't remember any of it. And at some point, Randy realizes he cannot stay in this house anymore. He cannot look at Brooke's body for one more second, let alone come to the realization that he somehow did this. So he stumbles to the couch, grabs a blanket, and drapes it over her body, covering her face, her wounds, the blood, everything. Then he runs to the bathroom, drops the knife on the counter, and turns on the faucet on full blast. And he just starts desperately trying to get all of the blood off him, but there is just way too much. So he does the best that he can, walks back out to his bedroom, and puts on the cleanest clothes that he can find. Then he finds Brooke's car keys sitting on the counter, and so he grabs them and runs straight outside to her car. Where is he going? He has no idea, but he just knows that anywhere is better than here. So Randy gets into Brooke's car, and eventually, about half a mile from his house, he pulls into this empty park for some reason. And at some point, he's like, I can't do this. So he pulls out his phone and calls 911. And he just says, someone's been murdered. And the operator is like, okay, sir, where are you? Who's hurt? What happened? And Randy, with this slow, heavy breath, says, just send the police. It was me. I'm sorry. And within minutes, patrol cars rush to the parking lot and they cuff him. And one of the officers is like, where's the victim? And Randy, barely above a whisper, says, my house. Someone is badly hurt there. That's a way to put it, I guess. So officers follow Randy's direction back to his place, and the second that they step through the front door, the smell is what hits them first. And if you've never been around a crime scene, there is just no way to describe it. It's just wrong. The kind of smell that immediately tells you something terrible happened here. And so these officers are seeing bloody footprints everywhere, and I'm not exaggerating. It's leading from the living room to the bathroom, back to the bedroom, back to the living room. It was like an entire map of Randy's movements through the house after it happened. And there, in the middle of the living room floor, they see a body covered by a blanket. And so the officers walk over and they slowly pull back the bedsheet. But what they were staring at was so much darker than anything they could have imagined, because Brooke had been over 25 times, all over her body, her face, her neck, her stomach, to the point where if you didn't know her, you wouldn't even know this was a person. And all these officers are standing there probably wondering the same thing. What the hell would make Randy do this? So at some point, police take Randy down to the police station and they place him in one of those interrogation rooms to question. And these two detectives sit directly across from Randy, who is just sitting there, completely hunched over, staring at his feet with tears streaming down his face. And he keeps muttering over and over in this broken voice, "I'm a bad person, I'm sorry, I'm a bad person." And for 2 hours, they go back and forth with him, trying to piece together a timeline, trying to find a motive, trying to understand how a guy with no history of violence could do something this brutal to his childhood friend. And that's when Randy basically tells them that ever since he was a kid, he used to sleepwalk. And so that must have been what happened here. And these detectives are staring at him like, my guy, sleepwalking? That's your best story? At least lie and say that it was self-defense or something. I mean, to do this much harm to someone while sleeping is basically unheard of. 25 wounds, defensive wounds all over her hands, a full violent struggle that left scratch marks all over Randy's entire body. There is just no way that someone does all of that in their sleep and doesn't wake up. So detectives start digging deeper, trying to piece together what actually happened that night. And what they discover paints a completely different picture than what Randy ever told them. Because the truth is, what went down didn't start Saturday morning when Randy suddenly woke up covered in blood. It actually started the night before. So on Friday night, March 24th, 2017, 21-year-old Brooke came over to her childhood friend Randy's house to spend one last good weekend with him before she moved out for good. She had been living with him for a while now, but she was in the process of packing up all of her stuff and moving away to Buffalo to start fresh with her boyfriend. And that night, they decided to hit the beach together, you know, just hang out like they used to when they were kids. They brought champagne and beer with them just to chill and have a good last night. And at some point, as the sun is setting over the water and the waves are crashing behind her, Randy takes this picture of Brooke standing in the water with her hands thrown up into the air, and she's holding a beer, just smiling at the camera. She looks so happy, so free, like she's celebrating this new chapter of her life that's about to start. And nobody knew it then, but this would be the last photo ever taken of Brooke Preston alive. Because less than 24 hours after Randy took this picture, Brooke would be dead. So they get back to Randy's place later that night, and this is where things start going sideways, because Randy just starts drinking heavily. Like, we're talking about 30 beers throughout the day. And Brooke's just watching him, probably thinking this is just normal Randy getting wasted like he sometimes does. But the more Randy drinks, the weirder he's getting, more aggressive. He's saying things that are making her uncomfortable, crossing boundaries that makes her skin just crawl. And she gets this feeling in her gut that something is off tonight, something different. So Brooke pulls out her phone and texts her friend Kyle saying, "Just come get me. I'm so ready to kill Randy right now. He's pissing me off." And Kyle immediately rushes over to pick her up, and when he gets there, Randy is absolutely trash. He is stumbling around the entire house, slamming fridge doors, pretty much just being annoying. And Brooke's like, okay, I need to grab my stuff and get out of here now. Like, I'm not dealing with this. So she tells Kyle to just give her a second while she heads to her bedroom to pack a bag and get the hell out. And so she walks over to her closet to grab some clothes. She reaches for the door handle, pulls it open, and the moment that she does, her entire body just freezes, because Randy is just standing there inside of her closet, completely naked, just staring directly at her with his fingers pressed to his lips, going shh. And in that moment, she doesn't scream, doesn't say anything. She just backs away from the closet, grabs her phone, and she practically runs out of that house directly towards Kyle's car. And instead of spending the weekend with Randy, she just decides to stay at Kyle's place that night and leave to Buffalo the next day, because after that stunt that Randy just pulled, there is no way she's gonna stay under the same roof as him. But the next morning at around 7:45, the day that Brooke would lose her life, she wakes up to a text from Randy. He's basically asking her to come over again before she leaves for Buffalo, because he has a t-shirt that he wants to give her for a friend. It's just a simple favor, right? Just come grab this t-shirt really quickly before you leave town forever. And Brooke's probably thinking, okay, he's sober now. Last night was just drunk Randy being an absolute idiot. So at around 8:35 a.m., she heads over to Randy's place. She walks inside and sees Randy in his room. He hands her the t-shirt and she goes up to give him one final goodbye hug. But only 14 minutes after Brooke walked through that front door, neighbors hear this blood blood-curdling scream coming from Randy's house. It was Brooke screaming for her life, fighting and clawing and desperately trying to get away from somebody that she thought she could trust. And that's when Randy claims that his eyes suddenly snapped open to finding himself standing over Brooke's body covered in blood, not remembering a single thing about what he'd just done. But here's the massive problem with Randy's whole sleepwalking murder story. When detectives sat down across from him in that interrogation room and he told them about this whole sleepwalking thing, they immediately found it impossible to believe. Because according to Randy's own timeline, he was fully awake at 8:35 when Brooke arrived at his house. And then just 14 minutes later, at 8:49 a.m., when neighbors heard Brooke screaming, Randy is claiming that he had somehow fallen into deep enough sleep to start sleepwalking and violently attack her. These detectives are looking at Randy thinking, you're seriously asking us to believe that you fell into REM sleep, the deepest stage of sleep where sleepwalking actually occurs in 14 minutes? That is medically impossible because it takes the human brain at least 90 minutes to even reach that sleep state. And even worse, what happened in that house wasn't some quick, confused moment where maybe he pushed Brooke and she hit her head or something tragic like that. No, he stabbed her 25 times all over her body, and every single time that knife went through Brooke's body, Randy would have felt it, like really felt the physical resistance of what he was doing. And it gets even crazier to believe his story because Brooke wasn't just lying there passively letting this happen to her. She was literally fighting for her life with absolutely everything she had left in her. And he's seriously telling us that he slept through all of that chaos? Yeah, I'm not buying that story for a second. So if this wasn't actually a case of Randy sleepwalking like he claims, then what was it? Why would he do something this horrific to his childhood friend? Think about the timeline here. Less than 12 hours before Brooke died, she was so uncomfortable with Randy's drunk behavior that she literally had to text a friend to come and rescue her from his house in the middle of the night. And as a woman, there's only really one thing that I can think of that would have made her feel that uncomfortable and unsafe around somebody that she has known her entire life. Randy was most likely trying to flirt with her, trying to make romantic or sexual moves that cross major boundaries. Randy most likely had a crush on Brooke for a really long time, probably years at this point, because they were living together under the same roof, seeing each other every single day, and he probably wanted to be with her romantically, wanted to date her and be intimate with her, but he was stuck in the friend zone watching her be with somebody else. But now that Brooke's leaving forever, moving all the way to Buffalo to start a whole new life with her boyfriend, Randy probably figured, oh my god, this is my last chance to see if she likes me back. And that would most likely explain why he went inside her closet that night. In his drunk mind, he probably thought she'd be like, oh my god, Randy, I never realized I had feelings for you. Yes, let's do it right now. But obviously it backfired horribly. So now Randy's sitting there alone the entire night, completely humiliated by what just happened and how Brooke reacted to him. So I think when Randy invited Brooke over that next morning, he purposely grabbed that hunting knife that he kept on his nightstand and took her life right there in his house. In the end, when the case went to trial, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And to this day, sitting in that prison cell, Randy still maintains that he was completely asleep when he murdered Brooke Preston, and he has absolutely no memory of killing her. But be honest, do y'all believe him? That is all that I have for today. I love y'all. Mwah. Group hug.
I can't believe that I had never heard of this case before. It took place in 2020 and the murder was absolutely sadistic and barbaric. A totally blameless victim who was murdered simply because she declined sexual advances from her housemate. She had the unthinkable done to her body, and the lengths that her killer went to try and conceal the crime, only to be caught red-handed, is absolutely unbelievable. I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is the murder of Phoenix Nets. In early 2020, 28-year-old Phoenix was living within a HMO property in the lovely Lozells, Birmingham. She was originally from London, however she decided to move up to Birmingham for a fresh start. She had struggled with addiction, and with the support from her loving family, she decided to make the move. She wanted to start fresh with a complete clean slate. And Phoenix was doing really well here. Her future started to look really promising and bright. Soon, Grace Gordon would move into that same house, and she and Phoenix would cross paths while in the communal areas of the house. The two quickly struck up a friendship, and they would sit talking in each of their bedrooms for hours and hours upon ends, sharing stories, laughing and chatting. This was the start of what could have been a really blossoming friendship, but Grace wanted more than that. She had made sexual advances towards Phoenix, which Phoenix was not interested and said no to. But that didn't stop Garisa. On one occasion, after yet again refusing her sexual advances, Garisa would push Phoenix around the bedroom and became really aggressive towards her. Where Phoenix had once considered to be safe and her home, she began living in a constant state of fear and anxiety. When the lockdown restrictions of 2020 came into place, I can only imagine that this heightened that feeling for Phoenix, because she was going to be stuck in the house with Garisa. This is when she would make the decision that she was going to move back down to London to be with her parents. When Phoenix told Garisa her plans, Garisa couldn't disguise the anger in her face. On the 16th of April 2020, Garisa would creep to Phoenix's room, knife in hand. She would pounce on the unsuspecting Phoenix, stabbing her 4 times in the torso. The wounds weren't immediately fatal, and if Garisa had contacted the emergency services, they would have likely been able to save her life, but she didn't do that. Instead, she sat with Phoenix for hours and hours upon end, while Phoenix was writhing and moaning in pain until she eventually succumbed to her injuries, dying. This could have taken up to 12 hours for her to bleed out. The next day, Garisa bought a circular saw off of Gumtree and proceeded to dismember Phoenix's body into 6 separate pieces. The dismembered remains would then be put into 2 suitcases. She would spend hours meticulously scrubbing the room from top to bottom. She was not wanting to leave a single trace of evidence behind, not a speck of blood or a bit of DNA. She would spend hours scrubbing, and she even got rid of some of the bloody furniture along with the bloody clothes. She had done that by actually hiring a rubbish disposal team to come to the house to collect the items. They took away Phoenix's bed, a blood-soaked carpet and some black bin bags. Meanwhile, no one had any idea what had happened to Phoenix. Garisa had taken her phone and she had studied exactly how Phoenix would text people, and she continued to text them back and forth pretending to be Phoenix so that no one had any idea that she was dead. Using some voice notes that Phoenix had sent, Garisa would sit and she would take a couple of words from this voice note, take a couple of words from that voice note, and piece them all together to create new voice notes to send to people. She had meticulously studied Phoenix so well that while she was impersonating her, no one was any the wiser. With the help of a man named Mahesh, Garisa would transport Phoenix's remains from Birmingham to a dense, isolated, foresty area of Gloucestershire. Alongside the 2 suitcases that contained Phoenix's remains, Garisa also brought along a jerry can full of petrol, her Google searches only confirming what she was about to attempt. She wanted to burn Phoenix's remains all the way down to ash. As Garisa went into the woods and began the first steps of her plan, Mahesh, who was still in the car, started to just drive around the local area doing loops of different streets and houses. One person would notice his car on the roads because this was already a usually quiet area, but again, this is in the peak of COVID when people were supposed to be staying at home no matter what. This person noticed his car driving back and forth, and so they contacted the police to report him. Officers pulled Mahesh over and told him to go back home. They could see that his car was registered to over 80 miles away. They watched him pull away and then slowly drive towards a woman who was stood on the side of the road clutching 2 suitcases. Now this screamed suspicious, and so they called for backup. One set of the officers were dealing with Mahesh, while some other officers went to speak to who we now know was Garisa. She did not want to let them near the suitcases or let them look inside, and when they did, they would discover the burnt remains of Phoenix Nets. Both Garisa Gordon and Mahesh would be arrested. Mahesh would be acquitted of his charges as they couldn't prove that he knew what Garisa was doing, knew what she had in the suitcase, or knew what she had done. Garisa Gordon would plead guilty to murdering, dismembering, and then trying to dispose of Phoenix's remains. For this, she would be handed a sentence of life imprisonment with a minimum of 23 and a half years to serve.